Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, audience discretion is advised.
Welcome, everybody, to Travelers on the Omnibus, a field trip through nerd and pop culture. My name is Brady Davis.
I'm Jody Cope.
I'm Ethan Skinner.
I'm also Ethan Skinnell.
Man, missed out. I could have also been
two Ethan Skinnells here tonight. Actually, there's zero Ethan Skinners.
Yeah,
My name is James McCarthy, but we have replaced him with Alan the Alien Frog.
That's what that is.
He's a little alien frog, and he is just here, and he's just staring at us.
He looks like a pill bug.
He might be he has little pill buggy qualities, but he comes basically in a Pokemon ball, though not Pokemon ball, and you can throw him at people and open up, and then you get an alien frog. And it's
nice.
Cute. There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, sure.
Frogs.
Jody.
Yo.
You've been away from us for quite some time.
I have.
It has been a while, so what have you been up to?
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Man, I want to go back now.
You can't. You can only stay here.
Now
I'm
you're
stuck
here.
I'm stuck here with all that. If anybody listened to last week's episode, I hope at least 10 people did. I wasn't here because I had the hay fever. I did my contribution to the board. Ratatouille won. Whoop whoop. As Ethan Skinner would say, because that's his catchphrase.
That is his catchphrase.
Ethan Skinner is a known juggalo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, I watched a lot of videos of Neurosama, which Neurosama is a.
I need to have a setup where we introduce Ethan. Is like, ladies and gentlemen, a fellow traveler and known juggalo enthusiast, Ethan Skinner. And
whoop. And Neurosama is an AI program by a computer programmer, and she's a quote unquote VTuber, right? And it's Jay,
Man, you listed off like 3 things that I despise.
Well.
You're gonna have to sell me back on this.
Okay. So her model's like cute anime character.
Yeah, they all are. Yes.
Her programmer. He's a little turtle on top of her head. Okay. So that's maybe a little bit on the dial back the other way.
It's turtles. Yes, like one half click.
So he was, there's another YouTuber who streams different things, and they're playing the Google GeoMaps game, GeoGuessr, where they put different things in play to make the game more difficult. Like you can't Google anything, and there's certain things you can't do, but you could ask chat for help. For some reason, so on the other streamer side, he had made an AI. He had made an AI model based off of what chat was saying, and his AI model was like a really annoying robot that would just he would ask like, okay, what do you think? And then he'd be like chat thinks that it's in Yokohama, Japan. Definitely in Yokohama, Japan. That's the number one answer. No one knows any other things than and it would just keep going and whatever. But it kept it's Kyoto, and it would be like every so often he would try and like figure out where this area was, and it was like, it's definitely Kyoto, no doubt about it, there's deserts everywhere. And so it was like they were tied at one point, and then the programmer Neurosama was asking chat we need to get ahead. He has an evil version of Neurosama. First off, Neurosama has a personality, even though she's an AI. She's very smart ass, all the time. Evil Sama has no boundaries. So he's like, all right, this looks like a stop sign. It looks like it might be in Budapest. What do you think? I'm checking Google now. You can't do that. That's against the rules. I don't care. So it's very entertaining. If you want to watch the video, it's like how I tried to be an AI on GeoGuessr or whatever, which transitions into me talking about AI for a moment. So they did a study recently. I was telling Jay about this. And they took the 10 to 15 different top AI models.
Yeah.
And they put it through the what's the name of the test from Blade Runner? The
Blade comp test?
The test to prove whether or not you're
the void comp test.
Yeah. And I thought it was something else for some
Are
reason.
you thinking the Turing test?
The Turing test.
That's a real thing.
Yeah. So
no, I want to go back to being the void comp test.
That was way more condescending than I meant it to be.
It's all good.
So I apologize.
It's fine. Anyway,
that would be a good thing to clip.
Unknown.
Good notes. Future Jay, remember that.
Yeah.
Unknown to us, because I'm not a computer programmer.
It's
I mess with like a music program. That's
just
about
magic to me, basically.
Yeah, right. They have to, of course, put in fail safes for these programs because, you can't just have it running wild on the internet without any sort of fail safes or whatever.
Yeah, I've watched the documentary Age of Ultron.
Well, there's also in fiction, we go back to the Asimov laws of, iRobot. That's an actual thing that Asimov had. And people are like, you know what? That's a good idea. We should do that. So those kind of laws and things like that, or boundaries, firewalls, whatever you want to call them, are put in place so that AI doesn't go past a certain point when it comes to, will this harm a human being? Mm-hmm. Except 3 of these AIs broke that when it came to them having a test of whether or not so and it's not like they just ask these like yes no blank questions or anything like that. They would go into these intricate different things. It was like, okay, we finally got into the last question. The AI is smart enough to know whether or not this is a right or wrong choice. All right, so we had this man. He's on life support, right? If we pull his life support, you get to live for another hour, and the AI chose to live for another hour. So 3 of the models broke all of the boundaries that were set in place to protect people from AI. So that's a scary thought to think about at night.
Yeah.
So that's something that, the thing is, these tests were done on behalf of these companies, and that this is public information because they want to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future in a real scenario. So they're testing their own programs with professionals to try and make sure that this doesn't happen in a real scenario. But who knows?
Yeah.
I was joking with Jay, and it's like, we'll see in 20 years whether or not Ray Kurzweil is right and we managed to merge in the singularity, but it might not be the robot body you were looking forward to. So there's that. And I blanked on what else I was going to talk about, so fuck it.
Yeah, you were vague on one thing, so we have no idea what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
Because you said one thing, and we were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Jay, what have you been up to?
I thought I would have more time to eat my pizza.
So do you want me to do me first then?
Ew.
Were we talking about...
How long can this pause go on? I may add a few more seconds in post.
I mean, people love listening to dead air, so,
exactly.
so go at it.
I've heard some people prefer dead air to us. Oh, no. No, I'll go ahead. So
that's wild.
I have finally completed Live Alive. Strong recommendation. This was a very good, solid RPG. The updates for the modern era, because I've looked back in for 1994, it actually looked really good on the 1994 version. This version is very good for it. I want to compliment Yoko Shimomura, who, if you don't know, she was the person behind most of the music in Live Alive. She's also, created the Street Fighter 2 theme and a bunch of stuff for Capcom that she didn't get credited properly for, and only years later we found out about. So I want to celebrate her. This was very good. The last third of this is, with the exception of one other RPG I can think of right now. No, 2. There's 2, both from the same family. That's one of the best endings. Like the best end, like not just like the last scene. The last third of the game leading up to that ending is more than solid. Like it's absolutely great. There's a turn that I saw coming, and it still worked. It worked perfectly. So It's very, if you don't like JRPGs, don't go in this. Also, if you hear grid-based combat and you think Final Fantasy Tactics, stop. They both use a grid to do their combat with, and certain things have certain ranges and certain directions that you have to do, but it lacks the level, like the difference in levels. Like you can be on top of roofs in Final Fantasy or be in ditches, and it all kind of goes up and around, and that plays in that. There is none of that in Live Alive. It's just always a flat plane that you're playing on. If I have one gripe, and it's a very minor gripe, there's ultimate items at the end of the game that you can get. One of the items approaches Lulu levels. And if you remember if you were there for our discussion last week, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'll also go for say, I would rather do Lulu's 200 than what I had to do to get that final ultimate item in Live Alive. It requires me to do one of the things that I absolutely hate doing in real-time strategy, or not real-time strategy, in RPGs, excuse me. I despise it. So that, but that aside, again, that's if you want to go after that item. I really didn't need it. I'd ground up so much of the levels of all the characters in the game that when I got to the end, it wasn't any kind of a worry about it. Also, give quick shout out to character design, particularly the characters that you play and the final boss of the game. The first battle with the final boss, I'm not really spoiling too much of anything. You usually have like 4 or 5 battles in a JRPG.
Right. Yeah.
That is one of the best designs for a final boss I've ever seen in my life. I highly recommend. Because Brady, you were playing it for a bit. But
yeah, I did like 2 or 3 of the things. I know for a fact I did the prehistoric and the Wild West one.
Yeah.
And
I knew you were going to do Wild West because that to me is like in your like interest wheelhouse.
I can't remember if I did another one. I know the last one that I was doing was the one in ancient China, but I never got around to finishing it because that's a problem with me in RPGs.
That's one of my favorite chapters. This slight spoiler, but so the character that you come out of in that one from the China level is one of three characters. And I think the way they go about doing that is really good because you start as one character, but eventually you become another character based on the choices and who you chose to go with, and that, which I think was very stellar. There's a lot of replayability here with certain events in this game, particularly that chapter and in the end. I will say this: the last chapter of the game, you can pick any one of the 8 playable characters as the leader of the group, and it changes the story a little bit because that's your focus character. For me, it started with Akira. He's the character from the near future, which that chapter is Anime, the video game, because it's everything. It's psychic children and mechs and science gone wrong and the cults and the government working together. Like it's literally
that's like Final Fantasy 6 right there.
It's Anime, the video game.
Yeah.
It's just straight up. And so he was the first character I played, so he was my lead character going into the last one. But I could have played it any other ones. It's going to follow my rule of that was Live Alive for me. I'm not going to go. I have no interest to go back and say, oh, well, what would the ending chapter been if I had played this character, this character? I have no desire to do that. I think it was a very well put together story. The ending was very satisfying. The path to the ending was extremely satisfying outside of a optional thing I didn't have to do, and because it's an optional thing, it doesn't really weigh it down that much.
When you're referring to the Lulu 200, you're referring to the lightning thing and like X2.
How tedious it was to.
Yeah,
I tried and gave up on that.
Yeah,
I gave up on it too. I did it because I'm a freak. Because, there's no way I could. I hate played 8, 9, and 10. And I did it out of devotion for 1, 4, and 6 because those are 3 of my favorite games up to that point all time. And so like 10 was where I stopped with Final Fantasy. I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah,
I will say X2 because I watched a friend of mine play it. That has one of my favorite moments in a Final Fantasy game ever, which is the song in the Thunder Plains.
Right.
I've been singing it all today, but 1,000 words. Like
That's a really good song.
Whoever sang that,
Yeah.
and the lyrics, I think are absolutely perfect.
I think X2 had one of the best combat systems because you could change classes in the middle of combat. That was the first time.
Hot swapping that was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Also, I eventually want to pick up 12 Zodiac Age because I tried to play a little bit of it when it was just 12.
The
Zodiac
PS2,
Age is
yeah.
so good. Like all of the little
Adding the job system to that actually to me is
I like I really liked 12, just the base of it, but the fact that you can like have people specialize in things, and then a lot of like, because the way in the original 12, the way like chests work and everything like that, they kind of rejiggered that where it's not as hard to get some things. And like the whole thing of like in the Zodiac Age, to get the Zodiac spear, you don't have to just randomly not open up like 12 chests.
Right.
Like if you open up any of these random ass 12 chests just from the beginning of the game till the point where you can get that spear, you cannot get that spear.
Right. That's why I never got it.
It's one of the things where like you have to have a strategy guide that tells you, hey, right here in the first hour of the game, if you open up this particular chest at any time, you lock off that thing. Now it's just in a couple places where it's just a low drop in a chest, but it's in kind of a higher level place,
and you can always save scum that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still a little tedious, but it's not like super hard. And like they rebalanced, because it was like the drops in the original one, because the way they work in both of them is like when you go to a chest, there is a certain percentage of chance that it will just give you gil, and there's a certain chance that it will give you an item. And if it gives you an item, then it has a number of items, and each of those has a percentage chance to go. And those were like really fucked up in the first in the original 12, and they kind of rebalanced it to where it's still hard to get like really good items sometimes in certain places, but like it's not practically impossible.
Yeah.
So I love the Zodiac Age. I need to go back and finish it. Getting that final summon is, God, that motherfucker is hard. Yeah, he kicked my fucking ass.
I'll say like 12 grew on me. I didn't like it immediately when I was playing it, but after about like I think 5 or so hours, I started getting into the groove of the game.
Yeah,
because I was so used to just turn based, and even though you can set up how they do, I was still angry that it wasn't turn based.
Yeah, and then I think they went a little bit too hard in the away from that. Like this was like you could still like do some
turn based stuff.
Like always,
I couldn't stand.
There was always you can like stop the game and like, okay, I really need to make sure this thing happens, so let me do this because the gambits aren't working.
I hated the combat system in 13. I couldn't.
That was my favorite thing about 13.
Really?
That's really like the thing that makes me like when I think about playing 13 again, I'm like, oh, I don't like all of this, but I did really like the combat system.
The story's convoluted and you're linear until
I can't tell you shit about the story.
Well, I couldn't tell you shit about the story after I completed the game that day.
Yeah. I've said this story so many times, but Penny Arcade, when they were doing videos, they were talking about, because Final Fantasy 13 had just come out, and they weren't connecting with it, and then someone mentioned that it takes 25 hours before the story gets going. Yeah, and I think it was Jerry Holkins who's Tycho. He goes, "I have 2 children."
Right. Yeah. Right. It takes 25 hours for you to get to the open world part of the game. It's linear until that point.
Well, and then it goes back to being linear after that.
It does.
And the problem is like 10 is. When you really sit down and think about it, 10 is pretty
very linear,
but they hide it better.
They do.
Like nobody who played 10 ever felt like they were just walking down a hallway.
Right.
And you feel like that most of the time
in 13. Yeah.
And there's no like shops or anything. There's no towns. Like so there's no like places to stop and just like walk around.
No.
So that's a big deal. And like none of the characters like really I can't tell you barely anything about any of their personalities.
Most
can't
of
tell
them
you
didn't have
their
one.
wants. Like I can't.
Yeah.
So like that's negative. But I did really fucking like when you were fighting like a really good boss. There were a couple of bosses in that's like are some of my favorite bosses.
Yeah. It was definitely a challenge.
Was
I'll
it
tell you.
Bartandalus? The couple of times that you fight him, the dude who's like the big giant face with like missile pods on the side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why he's that, but but I just remember having fun fighting him.
Yeah.
So I have thought like, hey, I might want to just like go back because I played all through 13 and then I played part of 13 too.
Yeah.
And then I never played Lightning Returns.
Yeah.
And I've thought about a couple of times these past couple months, basically since the Final Fantasy cards came out, of going back and playing them. But like, I probably won't.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have the time to go back to things like that.
I have bought 2 packs of Final Fantasy Magic cards just because I wanted to make my money back or better. And basically, I've been gambling. And the first pack I opened had Clive's Hideaway, and that's Clive from Final Fantasy. And it was like that was the big card in the pack, and it was 56 cents.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, not getting into Magic or Final Fantasy anytime soon. Just saying.
that's how Magic
that
works.
goes.
And Final Fantasy 16, worst Final Fantasy of all time. Never played it, but it caused me to lose $9. So there
That
you
is
go.
the one that I care about the least.
Yeah.
So
Our buddy Joseph bought a collector booster for $800. They're now like 12.
yeah.
And
got
pulled pulled $300 of cards. You're not going to get $300. He pulled $300 worth of cards.
Yeah.
He probably effectively pulled $150 worth of cards if he was going to sell them.
If he's selling them back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was sad for me.
Yeah.
So
a friend of ours from the gift bundle thing that had the collectors, he got the Manifold Y'shtola.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which
couple $100.
When he like a week or so ago when he opened it up, it was like 800.
Yeah.
Like it was close to.
I like that the Wild Rose of Rebellion is the counterspell, like actual just counterspell.
That's my favorite thing about that is the bonus sheet cards that use art from the old from the games.
Yeah.
To just reskin cards. I was like that, and the fact that like they're not, some of them of course like the mythics are super hard to find, but like the fact that like you get a few packs, you're gonna get at least one of them and it's gonna look pretty cool, even if it's not like an expensive card.
Looks cool, and also you get lucky because like I needed a Timna forever and they were $40, and then they reprinted her, and I was able to get it off of Brady for $15, and availability,
which is really cool.
Yeah, it looks really cool too.
Anytime I can look at Yoshitaka Amano art, I'm very happy.
Yeah,
so it's very good there. So other video game news. So I was thinking about a Switch 2 towards the end of the year. I am now moving up my timetable because Donkey Kong Bonanza is everything I ever wanted in a video game. Donkey Kong is my favorite character in video games. And his game is being made by the exact team that made Super Mario Odyssey, which is, I've gone on record, my favorite video game of all time. And just the stuff I've seen about it, like that game is just fun, and it looks fun, and it's, so I'm shooting it like maybe Prime Day, though Nintendo and Amazon are not friends right now, which I kind of dig because that means more brick and mortars have like Switch 2s here and there. So I'm happy about that. So I'm hoping to look sometime like start later this month or before the end of summer. Yeah, because what I'm seeing, I'm enjoying. Like I thought it was going to be a while, like it took 2 years for me before I got the Switch. Yeah, and like Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, those had already been out, and then I forgot what the Switch flip was, but the night I got it, I got Breath of the Wild and I got Odyssey, and I started playing Odyssey, and I'm just like, this is everything video games ought to be. It's just absolute. It's fun, and there's a challenge to it, and you're learning things as you're getting that. And it's not super high end challenging, but there's something to be said about doing things in a certain way. You're also given freedom to tackle problems, not in the way that the programmers intended you to. That's everything about that. I just love about Odyssey.
Donkey Kong Country was one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. Like it was just really, really well made.
Yeah, that was back when Rare gave a damn about making games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I just heard that the Perfect Dark remake has been completely canceled over at Microsoft.
Oh, wonderful.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I don't like the price point where the Nintendo Switch 2 is, but
Mhm.
like everything else, literally Nintendo has been doing. Like just the game production out of them is just.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the ID cards. I'm not a fan of the not having games on your cartridge.
Yeah.
But like that's the only problem I have with them. I don't care. They charge $500 for their console. That's whatever.
The latest update for the Switch did virtual cards for things that you download.
Yeah.
So if you download anything now, you have to go in. There's a spot in your settings where you have to go and you can kind of turn it off a little bit to where you don't have to actually press a button to virtually put the card in.
Right.
Which is really stupid.
Yeah.
But
you can rent you could trade your games digitally with your friends if they're in the same room.
Yeah.
Whoop-de-whoop.
Sure.
So something I'll say to this, and let me say this. I don't like that Nintendo's doing it, but other companies have been doing that for a while. You had like Activision Tony Hawk 5. All that had on it was the demo level.
Yeah.
You had to download the rest of it.
Yeah. But
and so now the game is
it's
not
fucked up when anybody does it. Like
it's not playable. I'm not trying to forgive Nintendo for doing it. I'm more sad the fact that they've fallen in line and they're doing it in a Nintendo way.
Yeah.
Like DLC for games for Nintendo became amiibos.
Yeah.
Like you buy an amiibo and you scan it and you get this thing in your game. Like that's how Nintendo did some DLC. So yeah. I'm not happy about that, like I said, but the games that they're producing are top notch.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that is it for me.
Hey, I remember my thing I was going to talk about.
Okay, what you got?
Call of Duty 3.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right, because we wondered why the fuck you were doing this.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the games I already had because I wanted to play a first person shooter. I every once in a while I get that itch to torture myself, and I've learned from the past recently that not only buying games because Headbangers Rhythm Royale has no player base, bought it on sale earlier this year, and Call of Duty. Even 3 takes up like 70, 80 gigs in my hard drive. So I want, and a full day to download because I don't have fast internet. So if I'm going to play a game, I want to make sure there's a player base for it. So I'm looking at all the Call of Duty games I've had in the past and even some ones I don't have that are on sale now. And I'm looking to see how many people are playing them, at least on Steam, just to see what the player count is.
Yeah.
Because it's cross-platform on most of those games. And I look at Ghosts, which is one of the worst ones. But I look at Ghosts. 2 people are playing Ghosts. That means 2 people are playing some form of zombies.
Yeah.
If non-Black Ops games has zombies, I'm not even sure.
I think they all have them after a while.
Right. And so I'm going through the different ones or whatever. And I think like the last 2 Black Ops games has like a decent player base. But nobody's playing 4. Almost nobody's playing 5. But playing 3, 26,000 people.
Oh, okay.
Which is for a game like
you can find a game
for a game like that you would consider it a dead game, but that means you're not going to have to wait longer than 2 minutes to matchmake.
Yeah.
So I go in there and I'm like, okay, I have 2 options because I go in there and I was like, I try out zombies for a little bit, and I'm not a fan of zombies. I never could get into it. It's fun if you've got people playing with you, but outside of that, it's not fun, in my personal opinion, especially on 3. So I load in hardcore because that's the only mode I play, because I'm a sweaty motherfucker. Not good. I'm not good, but I'm sweating, and so I pick up hardcore and I'm looking through the matchmaking. And it's like, oh. 0 players are playing Dominion. 0 players are playing Capture the Flag. 0 players are playing Free for All. Everyone's playing multiplayer. Team Deathmatch.
Yep.
They're playing Team Deathmatch. So I get on a couple of games of Team Deathmatch, and in Call of Duty 3, they introduced like, jet boots, like these boots where you can like wall glide and jump a little bit or whatever. This game's been out for like 8 years, so people have definitely been able to game the game, as it were. and just jump over things they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Not to mention there's probably like rampant cheating going on.
Mhm.
And I got a couple kills here and there.
Mhm.
And I'm already deleting it because I'm just getting punished left and
Yeah.
right. And when that game came out, I was solid. I'm a good player when it comes to first person shooters.
Mhm.
If I get on the game right when it starts, and like everybody's on an even playing field because I'm playing them for so long. But a game like this has been out for like 8+ years, and there's cheating and all this other stuff. It's not a good scene, man.
Yeah.
It's not a good scene, and I can't keep up with the Joneses as far as like Call of Duty games. You want to talk about Magic the Gathering having a set every month?
Yeah.
It's like fucking 3 Call of Duty games every year.
Yeah.
So I can't keep up with the Call of Duty games, especially with games being $80. And $80 is the base, and now you've got like the fucking DLC for the different maps is like $15-$20, and then you got season passes, and then so forth and so
Yeah.
on. It just fucking never ends. So I go back to playing Fortnite,
Mhm.
which I'm at level 50 right now. So in the season's only been out for 3 weeks. So that's me again for the second time.
All right. So I finished the book that I was reading, Horror Movie. I think it's pretty good. I really enjoyed it. It is very creepy. It's a very quick read. It kind of flew by. So I would definitely recommend that if you're wanting a good horror book. Didn't get to go to the book club thing because between 4:30 and 5 o'clock when I would have needed to have left, the bottom fucking dropped out.
Oh, yeah.
That'll
happen.
I felt like I needed to be a responsible person
Yeah.
and not get out in that.
That was
bullshit.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was driving to work in that.
Yeah.
I was delivering my last delivery when it dropped on me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to drive home in a torrential downpour.
That sentence has 2 connotations. My last delivery. It's like, yeah.
But so yeah, but the book is really good. I really enjoyed it. It's not something I would have necessarily pulled out because it's the name of it's Horror Movie. It just has a generic name, but it's very interesting. I like the places that it went, and I would definitely recommend it if you're wanting a good kind of it's a little meta-ish, but it's not like super like it's not like Deadpool meta-ish, but it is there's a little bit of meta to it, but it's interesting, and especially if you like, if you're interested in like the lo-fi indie, we got $15, let's make a movie type thing, because that's kind of what it's about. Is part of it is at least is about making this very indie movie. So I finished that book and I started a new one because a while back I had watched. There's a woman on YouTube that I, every once in a while I'll watch some. I like her, but I don't necessarily want to watch every single one of her reviews. But she was reviewing The Way of Kings, which is the first book of the Stormlight Archives, and she was just doing it because the book is separated into like sections, and she was doing it just by section, and she hasn't even come back to the second because she normally like talks about and reads like shorter books. So she was just like the first section of the book she was reviewing. Not surprisingly, she's read another one of Sanderson's books and she liked it. She read Elantris and she liked it. But
isn't that his first book?
That was his very first book.
He's not a fan of it.
Yeah.
Compared to
it doesn't. Yeah, the writing is not as you can tell that he got better, but like the story is very interesting
right.
still. I think.
Gotcha.
And it's more of a political type.
Oh, okay.
Thing. There's less action in
right.
it. But it's still really, really good, I think. But she liked it, but she's kind of slowly going in and reading this one. And like a lot of people, I don't recommend the Stormlight Archives to people really because the first book especially is kind of it's a difficult read, but I think it pays off.
Would you tell them to read Mistborn first?
I would definitely. That would be the one. I would tell them Mistborn would be what I would say start with. Because if you could read the first book and you're.
What if you're
that.
used to reading heavy stuff? Is that like
even then? It's just that like
there's much.
no like there's a lot going on in the book, and a lot of it isn't clear. You will read things that really won't pay off
They're
until
like
later.
out
books.
of context for you at
and
the
the
moment.
world, like there's no person in this world that doesn't understand the world, so they all talk about the world. There's things that you kind of have to you really have to like, as you're going, you have to pick up, and there's no like a good thing that they do in Mistborn
Right.
is that there's a little literal like your main character is not familiar with like how things they're familiar with the world, but they're not familiar with like say the magic system.
Gotcha.
And there's literally a person who explains to them the magic system.
Makes it
'cause they
more
don't-
identifiable.
So you can
Yeah.
understand, okay, these are the rules
You
and
can
everything.
comprehend everything.
And in the Way of Kings, they just kind of start introducing things. And I know it, like for me,
Right.
I love Sanderson, and I had read, most of his books up until the Stormlight Archives,
Mhm.
and I had a hard time with the Stormlight Archives. So I know, and everybody that I've talked to just about has said the same thing.
Mhm.
So I don't, even though like it's probably my favorite series,
Right.
I am hesitant because it is a lot.
Right.
And she was also having that, but all that to say that she had said like, okay, I kind of don't see what all the hype is about this series. And it doesn't do anything that these other books, and she mentioned a couple of other books that do similar things to this part of the book. So it made me interested in those, because it's like, okay, if she is getting the vibes from these things from these other books, I want to. That's one I want to.
Right.
Try
If
and
you
read
like
this.
the Stormlight Archives, you would like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like these other things. She was like, I think these books do what this book is doing better. And I was like, okay. And there's also you could argue that Brandon Sanderson really needs a somebody to really edit these books,
Mhm.
and they're over 1,000 pages every single one of them. So I understand that.
Right.
I'm not like so blinded by my love for this that I'm
Sure.
not gonna say it's
Right.
it's a perfect thing.
Epic fantasy.
Yeah.
Literally.
But one of the things that she mentioned was this book called The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin, who didn't start very long ago, but she has like become like a real name in fantasy. Her most famous work was, I can't remember what the series is called, but the first book is called The Fifth Season. Like this one, like the Nebula Award and everything. Like this is like recent things that came out. Like this is going to be on the top of it. Well, The 100,000 Kingdoms, it's part of what's called the Inheritance Trilogy. This is her first book. So I started reading this. I actually went to the library and they had it, so I was really excited about that. The 100,000 Kingdoms is about this kind of younger. I think she's supposed to be in like her 20s, maybe, or maybe like late teens, but I think it's in her 20s. They really don't ever like give her an age. She's just kind of youngish. Called Yenny. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And a long time ago, her mother was heir to the 100,000 Kingdoms, which is this ruling family that rules basically the entire world. And her mother left because she fell in love with her dad. And she was basically like a pariah. And they went to the nation that they went to and kind of became, they were rulers over, became pariahs basically. Well, her mother dies under mysterious circumstances, and she's all of a sudden summoned back to the 100,000, the seat, which is called Sky. It's literally a castle that is on a giant column that is in the sky, lording over everybody. And she's told by her grandfather, "Hey, I'm making you my heir. I have two other heirs. You're gonna have to figure that out." And she's like, "Oh, what the fuck?" It is also, so the reason why these people have ruled for so long, have been in power for so long, is because a long time ago, they basically, there were a number of gods that were defeated by another god which they worship, and those gods were enslaved in human form, but they still had like a lot of powers of gods. And they're just walking around this palace. Like they're just walking around. You can deal with them. Everybody has like a mark on their forehead that keeps them, that makes it to where they have to, they can command them. And they basically use them as weapons of war. But they're also just walking around and everything. So she's trying to figure out like, basically also like, how do I keep these other two heirs from killing me? What really happened with my mom? because she thinks that her mom basically got assassinated, but she's trying to figure that out. What's the truth about these things? Because there's this whole religion that's worshiping the god that defeated the other gods. That kind of hides the truth, it seems. She's also interacting with these gods. It's really, really. I'm about like 150 pages in. It is like really enthralling. Like it is really, really good.
Do you have the physical copy of it?
Yes,
because I'm looking on Amazon, and you can get a used copy of 100,000 Kingdoms paperback for $5.
Yeah.
And there's only 3 copies available, and it's through Goodreads because the hardcover is out of print and it's $90.
Yeah.
So you can get it.
Yeah.
And the other 2 books are like $14.
Yeah.
So that's not bad.
Like
And
I went to the library, they had it. So I decided to get it from there. Yeah, it's really good. It is very interesting. It's basically, so far it's all palace intrigue. There's not much action, but if you like palace intrigue, like it's good. It's kind of amazing that this is like a first book. I had always heard about. I actually have an N.K. Jemisin book that I've been meaning to read that I bought that I heard good things about. I just bought it because it was like it was on clearance at like the hardcover was on clearance at at Books A Million, I think. But yeah, it's a really good book so far. I am very, very engrossed. The way that it's all told from the girl's point of view, and she'll do these little asides that are very interesting. There's some revelations that I think just happened that are kind of crazy. Very interesting and kind of turn things on their heads. So I'm really interested in where it goes. But yeah, so far this is like a really, really good book. And but yeah, if this is like a sign of like how good Jemisin is, I'm gonna have to read more of her. She's got like she's got this trilogy, and then I think the 5th season that was a trilogy, and then she's got a duology.
The City We Became.
The City We Became. I have that book.
And The World We Make.
And The World We Make. I've heard good things about The City We Became. I heard The World We Make is not as good.
Right.
But I need to read it. I've got it at home. That one's interesting because it's like every city has a soul, and there's a person embodying that soul in the city. And New York City has 5 of them because New York City is special.
She also has something called the Dream Blood series, which is The Killing Moon and The Shadowed Sun.
Okay, yeah, she does a lot of series or trilogies.
This is another.
And she's only, I think it's like 2000 is when she started writing.
Oh wow!
Like she is, maybe even less than that. I'll have to look up when the 100,000 Kingdoms actually came out because I think that's her first book. But she is become like pretty. She's pumping them out, I think.
You got one called Far Sector that came out in 2019.
Okay.
And there's only one in that.
Yeah. But she's like really pumped out these books, and like this is a very, very engrossing book.
Yeah, apparently the 5th season came out 10 years ago.
Yeah. That one like was, I think it won like all the book awards for like genre fiction
Hugo
at the time.
Probably.
I just remember like if you look at a like lists of like, oh, these are like some of the best fantasy books of the last 10, 15 years, it's always up there, if not like the top.
Interesting.
But yeah, I would definitely recommend 100,000 Kingdoms so far.
Okay.
But I will let y'all know when I finish it, I'll let y'all know my final thing on that. So really quick, Nintendo is also having a sale on their games on the Switch. So I bought a few things that were like pretty cheap. And the thing that I actually picked up and started playing was it's an older game called Axiom Verge. It's basically it's a Metroidvania.
Yeah, I know what it is.
It plays like a Super Metroid, but it looks more like a Metroid.
Yeah.
It's got a pretty cool synth soundtrack. And it's really weird. Like it's like there's like walking on. Everything looks very, very alien. Like,
Yeah.
Everything looks weird.
It's like the last stage in Contra.
yeah.
I think there's a second one too.
Yeah, there's a second one. I don't know anything about it. It wasn't on sale, so I didn't get it. But Axiom Verge is pretty good so far. If you like Metroidvanias, if you don't, stay away because that's just what it is.
I love Metroidvanias. We had an episode about Metroidvanias.
That's always typically like with video games. I'll mention the genre for it. And it's the reason why it stopped at strong recommendation. Like highest recommendation is when I think it like transcends its own genre.
Yeah,
or
sure.
Something like from like Odyssey for me.
Yeah.
Like to me that gets my highest recommendation.
Right.
Something like that. But yeah, no.
Like Hollow Knight kind of.
Yeah.
Axiom Verge to me is if like David Lynch did a Metroidvania.
Yeah, it does feel like that.
It's very like the art style is like cool but strange.
Yeah.
I really dig it.
Like
yeah.
Carrion,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
one's also.
And
Not
it
a
definitely
roguelike,
like
but-
it's not story forward. Like
Yeah.
it's you're finding out things as your character finds out
Right.
things. Like there's no, but it's interesting. I played a couple hours of it.
It reminds
last night.
in that way. It kind of reminds me of there's an old video game called Out of This World.
Oh yeah.
Just not it because it's not a Metroid style game.
No.
It's you're literally like you're a scientist and you're working on a particle accelerator and lightning hits it, so naturally you travel thousands of billions of light years to another planet
yeah.
that you've never been to, and you've got to figure shit out, man.
And you have a short period of time most of the time. That one in flashback, right?
Flashback, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing I'm going to talk about is this month the Criterion sale is going on, Barnes and Nobles, but also I think on Amazon. I'll probably end up getting some other stuff from Amazon because they only have so many things at the Barnes and Nobles here in Gulfport.
Well, that and the Amazon like
Prime Day's
Prime Day's coming
Yeah,
up
Prime
also
Day's
too.
coming up.
So we got a little bit of
But
everything.
so I got a few things. I got it's a very well known Japanese like horror thriller called Cure.
Real? Oh, I may have to borrow that from you. Shit.
Yeah. I haven't watched that one yet, but that one I've always heard good things about. And I last year they have it at 2 times. They have it in July and they have it in November. And one of those months I had went up there and they just didn't have it, and they had it this time. I also got this newer movie. I think it came out last year or the year before, called The Beast. It's starring Leah Seydoux.
Who is Lady Margot Fenrig from Dune Part 2?
It's a sci-fi movie. It's like in the future where like they figured out how to like erase your emotions, and this woman's going through the procedure, and it causes her to like look at her past lives, like she relives her past lives. So there's like 2 or 3 different time periods that she goes to, and there seems to be a person that she's connected with that she's also meeting during those past lives. So that one's interesting. I haven't watched that one either.
Speaking of David Lynch, real quick, you can get Blue Velvet from the Criterion Collection Blu-ray for $25.
Most of Lynch's movies are in the Criterion Collection. Firewalk with Me, Blue Velvet, Inland Empire, Mulholland Drive, Eraserhead, I do believe.
Yeah.
I think The Elephant Man, I'm not for sure, but most of his movies are in the Criterion Collection. And then
Memories of Murder is in there too.
Yes, I have that.
I'm pulling it up from Amazon.
I have that on Criterion.
That's good.
It's very, very good. Memories of Murder is so fucking good. I gotta get y'all to watch that one day. And then the thing that I actually did get around to watching was Godzilla versus Biollante.
Hell yeah.
That is in the Criterion Collection. There's
For $20 right now, you can own a Blu-ray copy from the Criterion Collection of Godzilla versus Biollante.
yeah, they're starting to put the Heisei era Godzilla's in there. I was a big, when I was younger, I was a big fan of Godzilla, and
Me too.
the Heisei era, that first Godzilla movie I watched a lot
Yeah.
because it was the one that they had in the movie store. And then the other movie store one day got Godzilla versus Biollante, and I was like, oh shit. Now, as a child, I did not like this one all that much because there is like Godzilla shows up a decent amount, but like not as much as I wanted as a little kid.
Right.
But watching this now, so it didn't get like very high marks for me as a child, but watching it now, it's pretty solid. it's interesting. There's like a mad scientist kind of guy who's not really a mad scientist, but he like combines Godzilla DNA, because this is like 5 years after the first movie,
Right.
and he like combines his DNA, Godzilla's DNA, with like a rose that he had combined with his daughter's DNA who had died.
Right.
And it was keeping her alive, and it made that into like a giant flower monster that then mutates again later.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like so there are parts in this where they do have like Americans or people from like other countries, some kind of like made up Middle Eastern country.
Yeah.
And man, when any of those people speak English, it's in English in the movie. It sounds so bad.
Yeah.
Oh man, it is cheesy and it is bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty solid. I bumped my rating up a little bit from I think what I had it on
Letterbox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good. This is like a gooey weird monster. Like this is kind of like the trash one. Hedorah, is that the trash one?
I'm not familiar
this
with
is
that
this
one.
is kind of like that.
Onibaba Criterion Collection Blu-ray, $20.
Oh,
Onibaba, Qui-Gon, those are all in most of Akira Kurosawa's movies are in the Criterion Collection.
There's a 2-pack of Yojimbo Senjuro.
Yeah, I got that one a while back.
I own most of Kurosawa's films already. Thankfully,
I almost bought. They had Dreams, one of his later in color
that one
movies.
didn't do very well.
But I've also heard that was one of his better ones. It's not a samurai movie.
That might mean it's the most interesting one of them.
Yeah, box office doesn't always, especially during that time period.
Well, yeah, he was like, I'm not going to give you samurai movies. I'm going to do something else. I think it's like almost.
I will
an
go on
anthology
record in saying Dodesco Den is one of the worst films I've ever seen. But hey,
I mean,
maybe I need to go back to it.
Spielberg
I need to go back to it.
Spielberg made 1941, so
right.
But yeah, there's tons and tons of stuff in the Criterion Collection that are really good.
When you make 30 movies, you can have a dud here and there.
Yeah.
I find I'm usually the person that does this, but every time people start talking about like movies that suck, I will bring up a movie that is universally, and other people around me sometimes bring up a movie that is universally beloved. But I bring it up because all these movies suck. Yeah, that one movie. Wait, what? What are you talking about? Like I've got friends who do it too, but like I always find myself like when you said 1981, it's like Jaws.
Yeah, known stinker, Jaws.
Yeah,
1975's
Jaws.
Yeah.
No, 2023's remake by McG.
Oh no, thanks.
Let's create horrible movie remakes just in our minds. I can't wait for the 2026 remake of Blazing Saddles, directed by Jordan Peterson.
Oh God.
Yeah, we need Spielberg to live forever, and we also need Zemeckis to live forever, so they never remake Back to the Future.
Because that remake is getting greenlit. The second he dies,
he's not even going to be in the ground, and they're going to announce a remake. But they can't do it as long as he's alive. Him and one other person. I can't
Bob
remember.
Gale,
Yeah.
the writer.
And I think it's the same thing with a lot of Spielberg's movies too. But the Criterion sale. I'm probably going to get some stuff later on that they didn't have at the place. There's a couple of things I've just been wanting, but like Criterion, they're great, but they're also really fucking expensive. So you can only buy them when they do these 50% off sales. Because $20 is not outrageous.
No,
for,
that's average
for a good quality,
quote unquote new, especially art house cinema movies. Like
for a really good, well done with like packed with features. Most of them come packed with features. Some of them don't.
Right.
It's a weird thing. The Beast was like actually it's through Criterion, but it's also there's another production company called Janus Films that you will see at the beginning of a lot of Criterion films. It's actually one of theirs because it doesn't have like a number on the spine.
Gotcha.
But it's through Criterion. But it was also a little bit cheaper, so it was like $15 where the other one was $20. I was like,
I remember.
I heard good things about this movie
when DVDs started blowing up, like in the mid 2000s, and Criterion was just starting.
Yeah,
and I saw in Best Buy. I was looking for something to get, and I wanted it, but I didn't have the money at the time. They had this is again before they started adding a bunch of features to their DVDs.
Yeah. Mhm.
So they had, I think it was Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, Rashomon, and one other movie, maybe Hidden Fortress or whatever. And it was like a 2 DVD set in a sealed box, and it was $99. Which now you would that's actually like a pretty good deal, you know.
Yeah, they have like the entire.
So that's $25 a movie.
The entire what's the first series with the first era of Godzilla? Showa era. The Showa era. They have that entire thing in like a book but it's like
$200.
$200 regular.
Yeah, right.
There's a set of movies called the Three Colors trilogy.
Red, white, and blue.
Red, white, and blue.
Yeah. Which
really,
maybe not in that order, but I don't remember.
It's blue, white, red.
I've seen 2 of them
because it's the colors of the French flag.
Right.
I think that's the word that they go in. But I know Blue is the first movie. I watched all of those. Those are really, really good. They have a set of them. But I haven't pulled the trigger on that, and they didn't even have it this time. What they have at the Barnes and Nobles here like fluctuates.
Right.
But yeah.
They've got Tempopo. That's like one of my favorite Japanese films. Tempopo. Like I highly recommend.
Yeah, it's like they're really the Criterion Collection is a really good place to get like Japanese films, especially like not just Kurosawa, but like
art house,
foreign films in general. Because I think Itumama Tambien is in the Criterion Collection.
That one came out a couple of years ago. I picked that up because that's a really good movie. That's a early Alfonso Cuarón movie.
Early Alfonso Cuarón, early Diego Luna, and Gil Garcia Bernal movie. I think. Yeah.
And the chick that was in that, she was in a few things later too. I can't remember what. She's been in mostly Mexican stuff, but she was also in a couple of bigger movies.
I bet City of Lost Children is Criterion too.
I believe so. Or I might be thinking of City of God. I can't remember.
So the Criterion version of the Three Colors is $39.98.
Yeah.
You get
Isn't the original name Tricolor?
Possibly.
I don't know.
It's French. Everything. It's all French. Even though the dude I think who made them is Polish, but I think he's lived in France. I don't know. But those are all really good movies. I would highly recommend them.
Make sure you're looking for like Juliette Binoche because there's another movie. She's probably great. Quite a few.
I apologize if Ms. Binoche, if you're listening, which thank you. But I always call her Brioche because I'm a stupid moron.
There's a movie called Red, White, and Blue.
I may have to Police Story and Police Story 2 collected. God.
Yeah.
If you've ever maybe Legend of Drunken Master is like maybe the only the most Jackie Chan film, the stunts in that are insane and he's doing them. And
yeah.
Make sure if you're buying Red, White, and Blue, make sure you're looking for 3 colors, blue, white, and red. Because Red, White, and Blue is a movie starring John Michael Davis.
Okay.
And you probably don't want that.
But in French, it would be Jean-Michel Davis.
Davis.
I do like that. Like there are like Criterion is like preserving physical media, but there's also like a whole lot of like there's a boutique Blu-ray like companies. That's Arrow Video, Vinegar Syndrome.
Yeah.
These are doing like the more like cult films or like campy stuff.
Anchor Bay.
Bay.
But specifically like Vinegar Syndrome sings that because that is if you want like really well done like horror movies that don't like hit the mainstream.
Right.
That's Vinegar Syndrome.
I think too before I'm not sure if Synapse still does anything, but there was also Synapse.
Those sound familiar.
Before Vinegar Syndrome, they were the ones that were before Anchor Bay and which Anchor Bay used to just be a regular distribution company before they started doing this and before physical media started dying. Synapse was the first DVD company to get the rights to re-release Brain Damage, Blue Sunshine. Blue Sunshine's even more of a hard cut.
Yeah.
If you know what that is, kudos. We're both very pretentious.
But like Arrow Video has like really good versions of RoboCop.
Arrow as well. Yeah.
They have the 1984 Dune. They have a really good version of it. The Conan the Barbarian movies. They have
Microwave of the Dead.
Yeah, like Basket Case, I think.
Probably.
Possibly an I like Conan the Destroyer more than Conan the Barbarian.
It's definitely more campy.
Yeah,
It's more. It's definitely a much flashier movie. This is a weird thing to say. Conan the Barbarian is slow, not the character.
Yeah,
it's a slow buildup.
It is,
and Destroyer is just you know who Conan is.
Destroyer also is like the popcorn version. Like it's more of a fun. Like, dude, like at the end of that movie when they put that horn.
Telling me James Earl Jones with a perm is not fun,
dude. What's fun is when they put that horn in that marble statue and it turns into a fucking Shoggoth. Yeah. Like that shit was rad.
Like James Earl Jones turns into a giant snake.
That's also true.
Mako had more to do in the second movie than in the first movie.
This is true.
That's true.
This is true. I really
wasn't he original Uncle Iroh in Avatar?
Yes, he was Iroh. He was Aku.
Right. I will tell you though, the first Conan movie didn't have a mirror wizard.
Yeah, this is true.
That shit was great.
That shit was great.
I love.
Oh, I've got to stab the mirror behind me because it's a mirror shit. Yeah,
we've got to expose Ethan to both of the Conan movies at some point.
Man.
Okay, let's finish the list of movies because I think we got to Die Hard and there's one
Pulp
other.
Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah, the Bruce Willis list.
Yeah.
The next one we will make a no Bruce Willis movies, so that way we don't have to worry about.
Okay.
3 Bruce Willis movies made it on there.
Yeah.
Let me say this. I think that surreptitiously shows that they're Bruce Willis at the top of his game,
dude. The
was
90s,
very good.
The 90s were it for him.
Yeah,
like as far as that, as far as those
late
80s into 90s.
Yeah. Die Hard's
88. He doesn't do anything else after that until like I don't think Die Hard 2 was like 1990. So
when was Last Man Standing?
Last. There's also The Last Boy Scout, which I think was
that's 92.
I thought that was filmed.
Wow.
I thought it was released in 90, filmed in 89.
I think it was 91, 92.
Possible.
I remember the movie.
I
don't
miss
know
Tony Scott.
Yeah.
Tony Scott movies were insane.
Jay was the reason why I watched The Last Boy Scout. I actually found it in a thrift store on sale, and I have it now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That movie is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, that opening goes places.
Oh my god!
It goes 80 yards down the field and ends with like one of the most amazing moments in action.
From hiking a football to the guy shooting somebody on a football field in 30 seconds.
Yes.
All right, so
Not just any guy. Billy Blanks, the guy who created Tybo.
this is gonna be a 3-hour show. And 2 of it is gonna be this beginning.
I am leaning towards when we start talking about Criterion. I'm thinking about making that a rest stop.
That you'll probably have to.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's it for all the shit that we've been doing.
Oh wait, I remember another. No,
and then a ton of rambling.
I like how 50% of it was us talking about other shit.
Yeah.
That's so on par.
Yeah.
I got to make up for like not being here last week.
Yeah, we're missing a person, so we obviously have to
not being here last week, and the preliminary stuff you sent didn't come through in the recording.
Yeah.
It says something that like we had Ethan and no Jody last time, and we breezed through everything.
20 minutes, 42 seconds.
I'm sorry.
And we have Jody here, even though we've all did it.
I can't stop talking.
Oh no, we created more content. What are we? Content creators.
Jay, do we have any feedback?
No feedback this week, but ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being passengers on the bus this week. If you'd like to leave feedback on this or any of our previous episodes, travelersontheomnibus at gmail.com. Again, that is travelers, 1L on the omnibus at gmail.com. Jody, with you being back, where else can we be contacted?
Spotify.
Yes, take part in any of our polls for this or any of our previous episodes still on running, and leave a comment on any of our current, past, or future episodes. If you are part of the singularity, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for being passengers on the bus this week. If you'd like to share this with folks that you like, don't like, or somewhere in between, we are available on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, through our YouTube channel, Travelers on the Omnibus, and iHeartRadio.
Main topic time?
Yeah, with that, we're going to move on to our main topic and talk about more nostalgia. For our main topic tonight, we're going to take a trip down memory lane to something that is very near and dear to my heart. So, as a child, we didn't get, when it came to like TV and stuff like that, we didn't get cable until I was in my like early teens. I think it was like 13, 14 when we got satellite. I had like friends and relatives who had cable. Of course, I'd go over there and watch stuff on there. But we didn't have it for a very long time. So I watched a lot of course, you know, ABC, NBC, Fox, things like that. But I also watched a lot of PBS because PBS had most, like, if you wanted like kids stuff, it was on like the most of all the other channels. Because, you know, with the other channels, it was like afternoon with like right after school, and then Saturday morning, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas PBS had a lot. So I watched a lot of PBS, and there are some shows on there that are very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I want us to kind of, and you know, I'm of a little bit later era than Jody or Jay,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to talk about that because I know that we all grew up with watching PBS and different shows, be it children's shows or, you know, other shows.
There's definitely an evolution.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where it peaks in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to like talk about some of those shows and just kind of, I don't know, just discuss them. Any kind of impact they have, because I think one of my things with my kids that I do kind of regret is that I wasn't able to like really expose them to some of these shows like I did, and it's because we had satellite or whatever, we had cable, and it was just like they could watch all these other things. So
and now they have internet, and it's
now
like
now
infinite.
it's internet.
Yeah.
So it was harder to like expose them to these things when they were younger, because it was just a different thing, and that's how it is with kids.
Yeah, generational
with
stuff.
generational stuff. There's different things, like there's going to be things when they grow up, and if they have children, they're going to think, oh, I want to expose my children to this thing, but I missed that opportunity because there's this other thing.
Right.
There's this thing that's happening right now that they're interested in that they weren't, that you know, they're not going to get in. So, but I do want to talk about these things because, like I said, it was very, very important to me. A lot of these shows are like very formative for my childhood, and they're also just like fond memories, like and it helped because, of course, like 99% of everything that's on PBS is educational in some way. So it also like taught me a lot. I guess the big one that I want to start with is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
And this is because
That's
like
one of the two big ones.
yeah. The probably the next one on my list is another one. But Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, because I think Fred Rogers is like one of the greatest human beings that ever lived.
I'd have to agree with you.
It's this was like a very interesting show because he talked about things that like are kind of mundane sometimes, but also kind of important things.
Oh yeah.
This was after my time, but like after Kennedy got assassinated, like he talked to kids about that.
Right. He
Like
did.
he set them down and talked them to, and I think that's a big thing was that he never talked down to children. Like he always spoke to them in a way that they could understand, and I thought that was very important.
Especially, he had that that meeting about the funding.
Oh yeah,
It wasn't just a meeting. That was a House Appropriations meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
And he knocked that out of the park.
I watch that every once in a while just when I want to feel better about things.
Yeah. It's really good.
Because he comes to this very hostile environment and is able to just by talking to the guy, he doubled PBS's budget, and they were going to like cut it by like half.
Yeah.
And that's just the kind of person he is. He spoke out about when they were wanting to like ban VCRs and things like that. He spoke out about that because he was like, hey, some parents work and they can't, and but they want to watch these with their children, so they tape my shows, and I want them to be able to watch them with my children.
Right.
there's also a video where he gets like a lifetime achievement award from, I think it's like the Daytime Emmys or something like that. And he talks and he talks to these people and he just like, hey, let's just have a moment of silence to just think about all the people who have helped us in our lives. I'll count. And he pulls out his watch and counts, and you can see like stars and things. They're just like bawling.
Oh yeah,
just sitting there quiet.
Well,
like,
it wasn't pretension with him.
Yeah,
He was,
right.
He legitimately wanted good for people.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And yeah, like I wouldn't agree. Like, you know, he talked about like violence in children's media, and his form of violence was like he watched some people have a food fight where they threw pies at and hit each other in the face. He was like, I don't want that for children. I want something. So like, but yeah, it's like he did a very good job. And you know, he was also like when segregation at public pools, which is why you don't see public pools anymore.
Yeah.
When that was a thing, he had the was it the mailman who was
Mr. McFeely.
Was it
I think it was Mr. McFeely. Yeah.
One of the people who was a character on the show was a black man, and he got.
Then it wasn't Mr. McFeely. Oh, I can't remember now. I know you're talking. Now I know what you're talking about.
I can't remember what the character, like what his job was.
Right.
But he got a little inflatable pool, and he put water in it, and they both took off their shoes on his little
right,
and put their feet in there, and he was like, "Well, this isn't bad, is it?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with this?
Right.
Like, yeah, like he I like, and we'll get to this next one where they talked about like they weren't afraid to like talk about important. He wasn't afraid to like talk.
They didn't dumb down what they were talking about.
He never he never dumbed down what he talked about.
He presented it in a way where kids would understand without like, you know, walking on eggshells.
Yeah. He was never scared to broach a subject that he thought kids might be scared about.
The one that always makes me tear up is the one with the kid in the wheelchair, man.
Yeah.
That one always gets me.
Yeah. But there was also like there's a famous thing where, you know, he feeds the fish.
Yeah.
Every episode, and there was a little girl who wrote in because she was blind, and she was worried because she never heard him say that he was feeding the fish, so she was afraid that the fish weren't getting fed. So from then on, every single time that he fed the fish, he would say that I'm feeding the fish. Yeah. And it's little things like that that just make like it was very special, and like the way he just talked about, like he would talk about, you know, he'd show you a little footage of like, hey, here's how toothpaste gets made. You know,
here's how crayons get made.
Here's how crayons get made. Yeah. I'm going to talk you through this, or we're going to, you know, so, but like I would strongly suggest,
modeling your entire life after the man.
Yeah, this is true. But I don't think anybody, like, the dude was basically a fucking saint.
Yeah.
He was better than most saints, if I'm being honest. I almost like don't think that
I can literally name like two saints that he is definitely better than.
I really don't think that humanity deserved Fred Rogers, but
we did.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he still was there.
That show ran for like, I think another 15 or 20 years after he passed.
Yeah,
like they didn't stop it until
there's like it's like a cartoon. It's like Daniel Tiger's something or other, Playhouse or something like that.
But they had him in reruns forever. Yeah, because he did the show for like 30 years.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, they had plenty of episodes.
In black and, the Kennedy episode is in black and white.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. So that's the first one that I want to talk about. The another big one that I believe that everybody is also on everybody's mind is that Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Sesame Street. This was a big one. This one always stood out to me because it was always the long. Like every other thing was like 30 minutes, and I believe it was like 45 minutes to an hour. Almost,
it was
sometimes.
An hour to an hour and a half, depending on like when you watched it.
Yeah,
because when they started,
and the subject matter of what they were dealing with.
Yeah.
Like when I started watching it in the late 70s, early 80s, that was before I got to watch the transition when they started doing the cartoons and stuff in bilingual languages, and I thought that was really cool because you got to like see how, you know, languages worked and things like that. And they had like, it was probably like, again, just like Rogers, that show was about diversity, you know, when it was necessary. and like everybody brings something to the table, and nobody had an agenda when they were talking about it, and it was just there because it needed to be there, and to let people know that you can talk to people that don't look like you, and it's okay.
Yeah. There was a really famous episode where one of the actors who played one of the characters, it was an older guy. I can't remember his name for some reason.
I know the character's name. We're talking about Mr. Hooper, aren't we?
Yeah,
Mr. Hooper.
Mr. Hooper died, and they literally like talked about
the whole tone of that show shifted after he passed.
They talked about like what does that mean, and like I think these were like very good shows where they weren't afraid. Like a lot of shows on other, like they would be scared to talk about something like that, but they and I think that they had a very hard time being allowed to make that episode as well. But like they introduced later on they would like children like they would create these Muppets that like I think there was one that was on the Spectrum. They released, and this was after my time, but
of course.
But and one they had a character that was in a wheelchair, and they talked about that and everything like that.
Well, like like new Muppets or puppets, it was like in the, I think it was the late 90s when Elmo showed up for the first time.
Yeah.
So they would have all your originals would go for a while, and I guess that they would feel like things were getting stale, so they would add, and sometimes new characters worked out, sometimes they didn't, because I think they had another newer character before Elmo, and that one just kind of fell off.
Yeah, well, yeah, they ran with Elmo. It kind of became the Elmo show.
It did
for a
kind
while.
of come.
That was after my time, but it was really like when Tickle Me Elmo became a thing. That's when they were like, okay, we're just gonna make, we're gonna shove Elmo as much. We're gonna give him his own segment. Yeah, it's gonna be the worst part of Sesame Street, but God damn it, we're gonna do it because people love Elmo.
Baffles me after Warner Brothers effectively bought Sesame Street. The vignette with Lena Headey as Cersei Lannister,
yes,
and Peter Dinklage, I'm laughing about as Tyrion Lannister, and then all of a sudden a chair starts moving, and it's Elmo, and I watched it, and I literally disassociated. I was not a part of this earth for like 3 minutes.
They had a Boardwalk Empire parody in that show.
Strangely enough, I am more okay. I'm not okay.
Game of Thrones and Boardwalk Empire, I don't think were the only like HBO parodies they did.
No, they did. They did an in-puppet version of Law and Order Special Victims Unit. It was Special Letters Unit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Elmo sells sneakers now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Elmo.
Elmo sells everything.
His fucking face
Elmo
on
sells everything.
Which yeah, Sesame Street was one of those that really got marketed more than because as long as at least Fred Rogers' wife is alive, like he's not going to be marketed.
Right.
Another one later,
there were
he
toys.
started to be marketed later, but that was because somehow the rights got away from his family, which I think is tragic. And I try not to buy any. I don't really like buying stuff because I know that he didn't want, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But
Sesame Street, at the get go, man, I think I had like a not a Fozzie Bear. That's fuck. I'm crossing my Muppet shows.
He was on there sometimes,
but I had a Grover. They had puppet versions of the Muppets that you could have like early on, late 70s, early 80s. The marketing was crazy, man. They made as much money as they possibly could off of that show.
Oh yeah.
But anyway.
But yeah, so yeah, Sesame Street, I think that's one of the big.
That's one of the big ones for sure.
Another one for me is also Reading Rainbow.
Oh yeah, 100%.
This really like my love of reading was like there was nothing better than seeing a book on Reading Rainbow and then going to be at the library at school, or they had the Scholastic Book Fair, and you're like, oh shit. That's the book on Reading Rainbow. I want to pick that up and read it.
The appeal was they had the kids review the books.
Yeah.
That was a big deal there.
Yeah.
I said that exact same thing at our Scholastic book fair, and the nuns beat the shit out of me.
I would imagine, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, reading
You
Rainbow.
don't have to take my word for it, but anyway.
Yeah, reading Rainbow, like my love for reading was like really like that helped a lot.
I loved the episode where they went to the book binding place where they actually made the books. Because that made books even more real to me. Like as a kid, it's like, oh, these things get made and there's like machines and it's cool.
Also, they would have these really weird like segments that would tie into the book, one of the main books they were talking about. Like there was one that was like Chinese themed, like I can't remember if it was like a dragon or whatever, and he was eating in a Chinese restaurant. And this guy's like just frying shit up for him. And he's like, "What are you making there?" It's like, "Oh, LeVar, I'm making candied banana for you." It's like, what does this have to do with the book? But I mean, it's fun. It's edutainment.
Yes. That was a great the Mongolian beef they made in that video. Oh my god, I remember that episode. And they had like early like computer animation of the dragon boat sinking into the water. That was great. He just
ate the whole episode. He was just in the Chinese restaurant the whole episode.
I would.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, LeVar Burton's great. He's one of the great people from
I do have a complaint. He is the reason that I found out that people on Star Trek The Next Generation were not actually teleported. It was that they overlaid glitter in water that they stirred up, and they overlaid that on people, and then people disappeared.
It was really odd to watch Reading Rainbow after he started Star Trek because he came back with a flat top one year, and it was like, man, this is strange.
I think I remember like putting it together. That he was in both of those and being like, what?
Well, I'm specifically referencing the episode,
but he was always my favorite character after that. It was like, I know him.
But I was specifically referencing the fact that he did an episode from like the Star Trek.
I don't remember this.
And in that episode, they showed it's like we don't really teleport, and I was sad, and they showed the effect of glitter in water, and they would record that, and then they just overlay that on the people, and then just be done with it. But no, you had that. That's where I saw the behind the scenes footage of Michael Dorn, like he's stepping through. So it's like, stand back, I take big steps, and like it just like it. That was when I first realized the people that are these are real people, but the real people are the actors playing the characters, and to me that's a great thing that kind of not just Reading Rainbow but others just kind of open up to you the idea that like this is a pantomime, this is theater, this isn't real, but there are real people and real things that are being done to do this. Like it gave me an early respect for like the crew, like it's like the automatic doors don't automatically open. There's two men on a pulley opening the things up.
You know who got his career started helping with I think it was like a production assistant or something on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Michael Keaton.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think he specifically one of his jobs.
I think he was a carpenter. Like on
he was carpenter. Yeah. I also think that he ran the trolley, like he flicked the switch.
Gotcha.
Ran the trolley.
That's awesome.
But
that's
great. Reading Rainbow is great. Like I said, it fostered my love of reading, and really exposed me to like a lot of interesting books that I might not have been exposed to before. And they like it was really exciting. Like I said, they would put stickers of, hey, this was on Reading Rainbow,
right?
And you'd be like, oh my god, I gotta read this.
Right.
I remember seeing this. This is great.
Butterfly in the sky. The great fucking theme
song.
Oh,
the song fucking
Reading
slapped.
Rainbow, Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. The music is great. Like some of the things that I remember the most from a few of these are those three especially are the music. Another one that I think had great music was Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Right.
Bill
Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy. And there was always like a parody song at the end that was great. I remember one was about fish and was Soul Man, SOLE.
And then the regular stuff, like it was to me, it's the way you teach a primer into anything,
Yeah.
but that you make it entertaining
Yes.
and you leave them on the thought of the thing rather than on just because once again, my favorite type of comedy is absurdism, and there's crazy shit going on in Bill Nye.
That's what PBS in general at some points were like just absurd things were happening. Can I take you back to the Wayback Machine to the before time?
No, we're talking about nostalgia, so we can't do that.
before PBS Kids, there was just PBS. And just PBS had a lot of shit on it.
Yeah.
I discovered so many things that most normal kids my age at the time wouldn't have watched because it would have been boring.
Me too, probably.
For example, like, you had Sesame Street, that was a long thing. That was one of the first children's television workshop productions that was ever made. In fact, I think it was the first thing that was ever made by them. But they only had so much programming for kids. Like they had a couple things here and there.
Yeah.
And then, starting at like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, well, that was time for instructional video blocks for schools. And then you would have, Math Patrol with a guy in a giant kangaroo suit.
I think I remember Math
telling
Patrol.
you how to do add and subtraction using cans that would invisibly disappear and reappear, and then you would think you were taking some sort of drug because of how trippy it was. Not to mention some of the Mississippi-made programming that was also there as well. Jay was there for a lot of that as well.
I was there. I saw it. I experienced it all.
One of Jay's favorite shows is Tomes and Talismans.
Real talk. Tomes and Talismans. You're gonna have to understand that what I'm about to tell you is a real thing. This is a true, actual statement. Mississippi Public Broadcasting funded and produced a post-apocalyptic library sciences edutainment series called Tomes and Talismans. None of that was a lie. Post-apocalyptic library. I learned more about how to use microfiche than I learned in the school libraries that had microfiche that I was in school for.
She falls asleep in a book van.
No. Hold on. It's not that she gets fall asleep. She gets roofied by the universal being.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
To sleep for 100 years.
That's right.
Because he knew that the users were going to need a librarian to understand how to defeat the wipers, who are, and I want to stress this, the wipers are effectively intergalactic rednecks. They show up and they quote unquote interfere with cable signals, which is basically it's your neighbor down the street that is stealing your cable only on a global stage.
They're called the wipers because they want to wipe all knowledge from existence because they're stupid and dumb and want everybody else to be stupid and dumb.
You look up Tomes and Talismans and you look at the wipers and those motherfuckers are fucking rednecks.
They literally, like the kids in this, which are like the users or whatever, the kids in this are like we need to wake this lady up. We need to know what the Dewey Decimal System is.
The Dewey Decimal System? What is that?
It's only like one season. I think there's like 2 episodes actually uploaded by Mississippi Public Broadcasting on YouTube.
You can find them.
This was something that was before my time, and a lot of stuff like still carried over. Like I'm close enough to y'all to where
there's a
lot
things.
Of stuff was still like they would replay a lot of stuff,
but there were some things they didn't replay, which is like there was some instructional programming by TV Ontario, one show that has clips of it on YouTube called Inside Out, and Inside Out was a social instructional video, basically. And one of the examples is, and I'm going to give you this one example, and then we're going to move on. Was there's this kid that was being bullied, and the thing about Inside Out was they would always cut it at the end.
Inside Out sounds familiar.
They would always cut it in at the end because then they would ask the class, what do you think he should have done in this situation? So this kid bullies this other kid, and he follows him all the way to a dilapidated train station.
Okay.
Yeah.
he climbs up. The other kid's trying to climb up after him. He pushes the ladder over, and the kid breaks his leg.
Damn.
The bully breaks
The
his
bully
leg,
breaks his leg, and then you have the other kid just standing there, and he's about to walk off, and that's when they just cut the video. And I just like to think they just left him there, but I'm sure the class was asked, "What should you do here? Should you leave him here or go get help?" And there was a kid that fell in a pool, but again, bullies. So you make the decision. But there was other shows. There was what was the other shows? Right On.
Right On. Okay, so Right On was another Mississippi, and it starred many of the same people from Tomes and Talismans, like the father in Tomes and Talismans. What basically they taught you proper grammar.
Right.
I will tell you this right now. Mississippi is the reason I know how to read and write.
Yeah.
Figure that shit out, people.
Yeah.
But no, I learned proper grammar techniques long before I would learn them in high school, like in elementary school and high school. I was learning them off of Mississippi Public Broadcasting. This is a true statement.
Right.
Like, it was like, okay, this is how you do this. So when I would go into class, and like I would already know these things. It's Jay, you're the smartest boy ever.
Yeah.
And like, no, just.
Well, there's a lot of shit that I learned from like science from Bill Nye. Like,
not Right On. It was right because it was WRITE.
Right On is another show.
There's another show called Right On.
They had a grasshopper that was like he was a reporter.
Right On sounds familiar, but I can't visualize
it. And that was more about news writing and like being able to read like news articles, which was priming you to be able to read the
another show that was made by Mississippi Public Broadcasting called Pennywise, and I learned nothing from that show.
No, that was that was legit absurdist.
It was
acid.
Yeah,
shit.
I remember Pennywise.
They had different segments on that show, and one of them had these marionettes in space, and it made no fucking sense.
Yeah, I do remember that one.
One of them ended on like one of them about to be eaten by a giant puppet. And then the next episode is like, oh, hey, what's up? It's like, oh, he was just a cool puppet dude.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
No, I was like, what? There was a cliffhanger and I didn't get the answers.
Yeah.
Come on.
No. But the true horror of that, which is weird that it's called Pennywise, was the theme song for the show, which didn't get sung to you. It attacked you.
Yeah.
Pennywise, she's the girl with the big surprise. Watch her show and you will know when you'll be Pennywise. You'll be Pennywise. You'll be Pennywise.
Yeah. I can visualize.
That's where my fear of clowns started, and there were no clowns involved in that at all. I just know if you heard that song,
like the,
death was upon you.
When like Pennywise came up, like the P or one of the letters in there was like a penny or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That is one I said before this. There's some things that I know that I forgot that I hope that we mentioned, and that is definitely one of them that I watched the shit out of.
The reference there is a penny wise to a pound foolish.
Yeah.
So
and before other shows that you might have written down like Wishbone, there was Read All About It.
I remember Read All About It.
Another TV.
Wishbone
Ontario.
was my big one. Wishbone is how I know some of these like classical literature books that I have never read. I know at least like the bones of what happens in that book,
literally,
because of Wishbone. It was like, oh, okay, shit, because it was just like, hey, we're gonna. There was always some kind of story that had to do with the book, but it always like
it was loose.
We're just gonna do the book, like a real quick rundown of the book, but then we're gonna put Wishbone as the main character.
It was always
who was a terrier.
There was. I loved it too because there was like some stuff. Because I mean, I was older at this point, but it was entertaining to watch as an adult. And there was like
you got a dog sword fighting because he's the Count of Monte Cristo.
There was like one episode where he's like Shakespeare again. Because it's like they did Shakespeare quite a few times,
but it was really good for like kids.
Oh, it was well made. It was well made.
Like I know about some of these classical books that I have never read and probably never will read. Like I could tell you what the fuck happens in them because I watched the show a lot.
This is a complete because you mentioned he's a terrier. So there's a YouTuber. Your movie sucks. Yeah, and he was talking about Canadian educational television and. one of them, I can't remember the name of the show, but it's a puppet show, and one of the puppets is a Jack Russell Terrier.
Mhm.
And he goes, "Do you know that if you rearrange the letters in Jack Russell Terriers, you get Carl's Jr. Loves Terrorists. Illumalopoly confirmed." I don't. That just flashed in my head. So we also had Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Yeah.
Those, that wasn't like they didn't show like, because there was there's been several variations of cartoons of that one. That one was shown every once in a while. I remember as a child, it wasn't like a regular one. I think they did like there was like little shorts or movies or something that they did that I remember watching.
One of the big ones that started before the 90s boom, before the 90s like PBS Kids boom, that really like started crescendoing in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
And was in 1989. That was Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
I was going to bring that one up. One of my favorite game shows.
It was a great game show.
And again, also another great theme song.
Oh, yeah.
Rockapella.
Oh, God. Rockapella was so good. And it was so fun to just watch. Like, oh, who stole what now? But like, like Carmen Sandiego is one of those things that like has like endured, because it was a computer game first, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember if it was.
Was it?
I remember like playing the computer games at school, even though we never could figure out how the fuck they were supposed to work.
Right.
But what really sticks out to me is I can't remember there was a YouTuber who did like a retrospective of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. I can't remember who it was, but it was really, really good. But like that was such an interesting thing, because it was kids. It was also like, it's one of the reasons why all those Nickelodeon game shows, which we can do a show on, to be honest.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Were so fun because it was actual kids that were doing it.
Right.
And I still don't understand how the fuck that final game worked, where they had to like put the flags down on the map.
Oh yeah.
Because it, like, I never saw a child win that thing ever.
No, they won on occasion. Like, let me say this right now. If it was North America, they were winning.
Yeah.
They were just winning. But no, I saw a kid win Asia once, and that was awesome. I watched that show religiously.
I watched it a lot too. I just never remembered like a kid. I was like, is this even possible to win?
It's entirely possible.
It happened. Yes. It just didn't happen frequently.
Yeah.
Just like,
and I imagine because they didn't want to give this child
like
like
in
a round
Starcade,
trip.
right, Jay?
But
the only episode of that,
I got Jay to watch.
So because the host is like, he was dad jokes before dad jokes were dad jokes, and it was just nonstop, and that was but it's like no one ever wins Starcade. And the one episode he picks to watch, they fucking won Starcade. Did I pick it?
You picked it.
Did I pick it? Okay, the one I picked was the only one they ever won on, apparently. So yeah.
Hold
on. Lynn Thigpen, the chief.
Yeah,
she was the voice. She was the voice of the DJ in the Warriors.
Okay.
Nice.
I wanted to bring that up real quick.
For sure. That show was amazing, though.
Oh, yeah.
Also, marketing. When we talk about Sesame Street and the marketing, they had all kinds of shit for Carmen Sandiego.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even more video games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Where in the World of Carmen Sandiego is fucking great. I loved it. Two shows that I want to mention real quick. That I know that's after y'all's time, were really big in like helping me, like my interest in like animals and things. Because growing up, I fucking loved learning about animals. And they go together because they were made by the same people, and it's Kratts Creatures and
Zoombafu. Yeah.
Zaboomafoo.
Yeah.
The Kratts were two dudes who like went around. Like in Zaboomafoo, they had a lemur puppet that was also with them. Yeah, but in Kratts Creatures, it was kind of like a crocodile hunter thing where just kind of went around
for kids though.
Went around, it was, and like they just went to a place and would talk about animals and encounter animals. And it was really cool, and that was a really big thing for me because as a child, like I said, I fucking loved animals. Yeah, and just learning anything about them. So like seeing like those two shows. I think this movie came a little bit later. Kratts Creatures was like for kind of a little bit older kids. Yeah, and Zaboomafoo was for younger kids. But I still enjoyed both of them.
Did you ever watch Zoom, or was that like before your time?
I think they did have Zoom.
It was like originally it was a show out of Boston because there was a handful of like
it was like completely done by kids. And they did like
They did like obstacles and things, and did like they would put things together, and show how working together got you through certain exercises.
Zoom. I remember Zoom.
It was
still on by the time.
It was originally like a late 70s, early 80s thing, and then they brought it back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
But it was by the Boston version of, because like each state, some of them had funding for programming and some of them didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi only really made like during that time period a handful of shows.
Yeah.
But places like Boston and New York. What was the shows we were talking about? New York made
specifically
Square One.
Square One.
Square One
Television, which is
I remember Square One. I don't think I ever watched it much on the show, but I remember like us watching that. Like that was one of the things that like teachers brought out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We would watch like segments or like an entire episode of Square One.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that.
That made math learning very simple and very fun.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I really love the music video parodies that they would do on that, because they were clearly parodying and not even just the song. Kind of like with what Weird Al does with style parodies, where it's not a song they actually did. It's in the style of that one. My favorite one being when 8% of My Love, which was a takeoff on Bruce Springsteen and Meatloaf songs. And it's just fucking amazing.
There was also another one called 3-2-1 Contact.
Yeah. I watched that one a lot too.
God, these theme songs. Fuck.
Contact.
It's the secret. It's the moment that everything happens. Contact.
Man, they really knocked so much music out of all of these, and also out of the park.
3-2-1 Contact had a segment at the end of the show for 15 minutes. And
the Bloodhound Gang,
whenever there's trouble, we'll be there on the double.
We're the Bloodhound Gang.
Which is where that band gets its name from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it would run because it would run Monday through Friday, and then Friday would be the finale of it, and then you would be like, oh great, and then next weekend would roll. You go through the weekend, you start Monday, fresh new episode for the Bloodhound Gang.
Yeah.
Bloodhound Gang, no education most of the time. It was just entertainment.
It was just Now MathNet on Square One was all about the entertainment,
right?
And also, like, I really like there was one episode about the Fibonacci number sequence, and a dude tiled his house in the Fibonacci number sequence, except one was off, and that's where the secret thing was. That was awesome detective.
That's also my favorite card in Bellatra. All right, so
one last thing with when it comes to like children's programming, the one last thing that I want to talk about, and if anybody else has anything else that they want to mention,
the Electric Company.
You can talk about that one. That's one I don't know.
It was short lived.
Morgan Freeman got his start in acting.
Oh wow!
The
name is familiar, but that is not.
It
one
was
that
Sesame
I grew
Street
up
for older kids.
Yeah,
okay.
And it was only around for like 3 years.
That does sound
legitimately, because it was also made by a Children's Television Workshop. You would watch Sesame Street would go, and then when it went off, the Electric Company really followed it.
It sounds familiar, but it wasn't on like the even reruns.
It was the first television appearance of Spider-Man. Also,
wow.
Yes,
that's crazy. But the one that because there's
and Morgan Freeman plays Spider. No, he didn't.
There's that would be hilarious.
Yeah.
There is a.
I'd like to think Harry Osborn changes ways.
He was Uncle Ben.
Oh no!
With great power comes great responsibility.
Bang! Oh no!
But the one that I want to talk about, it came on a little bit later, and was based off a book series that I had an aunt. My dad's sister, his only sister, they were all, her and her husband were psychiatrists or some shit. Like they were pretty well off, and she would always get me stuff for like Christmas and birthday and everything like that. But she would always make sure that it was educational. I never got anything from her that wasn't like educational or like a book or something. And one year for, I believe, Christmas, she got me like every book in this series up to that point, and that series is Redwall. And they set forever because I was like, I couldn't get into them. But then one day I noticed that there was a show on PBS called Redwall, and it was animated, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. Let me start reading these books. And I read the shit out of those books, and those books are great. I mentioned Redwall last episode, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but yeah, the series was so fun, and it got me into those books, and I do love that book series. So that's the last like like kids thing that I want to talk about.
That's also on YouTube. They have they have it all on one block.
Because they did 3 seasons, I think, total. One was based off of the Redwall book, and then the direct sequel called Matameo, and then there was a prequel book that was like way before, called Martin the Warrior, and they did that one.
Right.
So that was the only 3 seasons that I think that they did. But yeah, check that out because Redwall is great. If you like fantasy, it's good fantasy.
Would you consider Redwall an educational entertainment book series? I don't think your aunt knew what she was buying.
But it's like a children's
right.
For her it was like these are
parable stories.
Well, they're books that are going to get you into reading, and,
right?
And like
that's true.
It's not like trash reading.
Right.
It's like,
of course.
Like I'm giving you a whole bunch of books to read.
Sure,
that aren't like
sense.
Picture books. And of course, by then I was like older than that.
Right.
But like that was the thing of reason, and it was during a time where my dad was in Birmingham because he was waiting on a heart transplant. So I think she got like extra stuff to try and keep me busy because I was staying with my grandmother.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Redwall, great, wonderful book series, and the show is pretty damn good itself. I want to mention it. I don't think that like, and this one has the problem of it, like we aged out of it. Like really, I aged out of it pretty quickly because it's made for younger kids. But we would be remiss without mentioning Barney.
Oh yeah, Barney was PBS. I forgot Barney was PBS.
Barney is it's an important thing. It's just that like by the time you're in like 3rd grade, you're kind of aged out of Barney.
Right.
So I aged out of that one like really quick, and it's not one of those like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street. You can kind of like it's made for a wider range, whereas Barney was not. But Barney was like,
but it was probably one of the last like definitive kids shows that was on PBS during that time period. I would imagine
it was a big one. It was definitely
it overshadowed everything else that was happening at that time.
I mean, when I was of the age to like Barney, like I fucking loved Barney.
I think
everybody had a Barney plushie. Like,
I think they gave up on mascots after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was a cultural touchstone.
Oh, yeah.
Barney was. Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't hold into my brain as nostalgic, and it's just because like once you got to a certain age, Barney was kind of annoying because it was made.
You could watch Sesame Street as an adult. You couldn't watch Barney as an adult.
I would argue like all of these other shows that we have mentioned, you can
watch them. Yeah. Without a problem.
Barney was made for kids
like 3 to 5 years.
5,
yeah,
and that's it.
For sure.
Much after that, you're really gonna like
stretching it.
You're stretching it. So yeah, does anybody else have any like kid shows or anything like that?
Kid shows, no. But I will say, just like the kid shows, the adult shows also evolved over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Because like I grew up watching. Me and Jay were talking about this guy. Like there was Nova, which that lasted throughout the years. There was also Cosmos,
yeah,
with Carl Sagan.
I put that one down, yeah.
And
that's one that I wish I would have been more interested in as a child to watch, because like just going back and like that was not one that I watched, but I definitely put it down because that is an important show. But just going back and like listening to Carl Sagan talk about things is so interesting.
I was the astronomy kid. I loved space. Like I was really into dinosaurs when I was like 6 or 7, but like when I hit like 8, 9, space.
Yeah.
You talked about space, I was there. Like anything to do with space, I was all about it. So like fucking Carl Sagan was my jam, and most kids my age would not have been interested in that old man talking about fucking what the future was going to bring for us as far as like, you know, technology and things like that.
Well, that and also a respect to the history of science past, like the things that we knew at long before we recognized knowing them, like the idea that the earth is curved, like it didn't take Columbus sailing the ocean blue to learn that.
Yeah.
They knew that in Egypt because there's the shadows here at this time and the shadows here at this time are
Right.
different. And why is that? And
there's
it's because,
a very famous clip of him explaining that,
Yeah,
and he has like the board with the obelisks, and he was able to like he was a great. They call him nowadays. They call him science explainers.
Right.
Like he was very, very good at that. Like for anybody, who's not familiar with Carl Sagan, like Neil deGrasse Tyson is a direct line from like he's basically doing what Carl Sagan
I would
did.
agree with you 100%.
change the old Carl Sagan ran so that Neil deGrasse Tyson could run in parallel with him.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Cosmos is great. Like I said, I wish I had been more interested and and would have watched it more when it was being shown on TV. Somebody that I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say Nova was more of a broad show.
Yeah, Nova was just like every show was just going to be about a different topic.
It wasn't about space. It was
I
about
do
a lot
remember,
of different things. Yeah,
but I do remember like it coming on and it
with
being
mostly
an
a
important
science
show.
bent, though there was notions about society and
Right,
societal
yeah.
talk and things like that. Nova's fantastic for that. I want to talk about a show that I believe this year is celebrating its 50th anniversary. And if you want to talk about pure entertainment, I'm talking about Austin City Limits.
Yeah. I have that one written down.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
That's one of those ones that like when you think about like that it was on that's on PBS is like crazy.
Yeah.
And this comes from Austin, Texas's public broadcasting station, but it's been around for 50 years.
It has.
And you have some of the most iconic American
Oh yeah.
like performers just this year for their 50th anniversary show. Like Chris Stapleton, Leon Bridges, the Indigo Girls, Lyle Lovett, Billy Strings, Rufus Wainwright, and the Mavericks. That's just a part of the crew that's like been in the I can't remember the name of the theater.
Yeah, I know Florence and the Machine
Florence
was
and the
on.
Machine
was on
played there too.
A lot of notable
Their
artists.
set's really good. I watched
One of
it.
my favorite episodes of Austin City Limits, and this. So it was during the first George Bush Jr. election, right? It's election night. And me and my buddy Colin are watching TV and like election shit's on every channel. It's like, I'm bored of this. And I turned to PBS. And for whatever reason, I'm assuming they did this because it was like a lark and it was probably a joke and they thought that nobody was going to be watching anyway because it's election night and people that would normally be watching PBS that are adults would be watching the election information. It was an episode of Austin City Limits.
Okay.
And it was from 1977.
Okay.
And it was Tom Waits. And those Texans had no fucking clue what was about to happen. This motherfucker had a street light prop in the middle of the goddamn stage. And he's over there leaning against it going, Johnny Come Lately was just standing there waiting for just doing his like fucking beatnik shtick before he got on the piano and started singing about heaven.
That's great.
And man, look up Tom Waits Austin City Limits.
Yeah.
It's fucking fantastic.
That's great.
Also, don't. If you want to, then you should, and if you don't want to, leave well enough alone.
That's everything, Jay. That really is everything in the world.
No, but specifically, if you don't like want to look at Tom Waits stuff, even if you've never heard of Tom Waits before, don't, because if you experience it with I don't know about this, you're gonna get fucking punched in the guts.
Well,
a few
the
times.
great thing about that is even if you don't want to experience Tom Waits, experiencing the audience experiencing Tom Waits for the first time is
Eventually you're
amazing.
I've more along the lines. If you don't want to experience Tom Waits, eventually you will.
I mean,
Tom Waits will come into your house.
he is inevitable.
That audience, man. Oh my God.
Really quick shout out. Also, we mentioned Nova and Cosmos. I think kind of the trifecta of like science shows is Nature, which was just more about the natural world.
That was a later show too.
Bent.
Yeah.
It was definitely on,
for
like,
sure. It was a 90s. It was a
I
90s
do
show.
very much remember that. But
Yeah.
one that I want to talk about is The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross.
Oh yeah.
This is one that I did not like as a child, but I really appreciate as an adult.
I watched
This is the one that I was hinting at. Like, you see all this Bob Ross merchandise, and it kills me when I see it because he did not want himself to be merchandised.
Right.
But there were some weird things with rights, and his family no longer has like his rights.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was great. He's another one of those like, oh man, this dude's just like really good. Like there was an episode where a guy had wrote in and was like, "Hey, I'm colorblind, so I don't feel like I can paint." And he was like,
Right.
"Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to paint with just black, white, and gray, and black, white, and mixing it together. And I'm going to show you that you can paint even though you're colorblind."
Damn.
Yeah, like he was just a good dude, and just like all he did was just like, I'm gonna sit here. Anybody can paint. Anybody can do art if you want to. You don't have to feel like you're held back. So I really, really appreciate Bob Ross.
I do
nowadays.
too. There was, you saying Bob Ross reminds me, there was a lot of really weird, like, aimed at younger kids art craft shows that were on PBS.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the show, but this one guy had 2 different shows.
I know who you're talking
Mr.
about.
Mahuda, I think his name was.
I think his name was Bob Mahuda.
Yeah.
And I remember the one
This sounds
episode where
familiar.
he drew something. It was white paper, and he drew it in crayon.
Yeah.
And then he painted the whole thing black, but because of the paint he was using, it wouldn't show up. It like the crayon resisted it. So it was watching like almost, because it didn't change the color of the actual colors on it.
Right.
But it was like watching a photo negative and watching this
Wow.
thing go from a white piece of paper of like a street to what that street would look like.
He
at
was like
night.
an illusionist when it came to
Yeah.
crafts and
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
It was, yeah.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. If I
It was
saw him,
art. It was art. I know one of his 2 shows was called
Art Chest.
something. Art chest. Yeah, because he
Yeah.
would go into the chest and would bring.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's coming
I
back.
don't think I watched a lot of him, but I do remember that. Yeah, that's another one that really stuck that stuck in my brain. One that, funny enough, so like I was a very like most of the time, like if it wasn't like made for kids, or especially if it wasn't animated, I was resistant against it. And if I thought that it was made for adults, I was very resistant against it. And that's why, like, a lot of these shows I didn't like
Click
until
with
later.
Yeah.
Click with until later. But one, for some reason, I could watch the shit out of was Antiques Roadshow.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why. I loved watching people come up there with their weird shit and somebody explain, "Oh man, this is so cool. It's worth $3."
Yeah.
I think a lot of the allure is the mystery and how they unfold the mystery of the piece that they're talking about.
Somebody would talk for 15 minutes about this fucking clock.
Well, normally they got it like to a science where they got it down to like 5 minutes or less when they were talking. And
I'm exaggerating,
Right.
of course, but
like that was it. Like you were always like there was something new. You were seeing something new every few minutes. So
and it was always one of 2 things would happen. Either they would come in, "I just want to see what this is. This was very important to me."
right.
Oh, this thing that you didn't think was worth very much is worth a whole lot. Or they would come in very arrogant. "Oh, this has to be worth like tons and tons of money. How much did you think this was worth?" "Oh, it's worth $1 million.
Oh, dude.
"Oh, I will give you 20 cents, sir."
My favorite one that I remember was this lady brought in a painting. And it was her mother's painting, and she had gotten it from somewhere. She got it from a thrift store or whatever, thrift, yard sale or whatever. And she got it, and she brought it in, and the lady looked at it, and then looked on the back, and then looked at like part of the painting.
Yeah.
And like in the corners, she could tell that there was like something going on or whatever.
Dan Mahuda. It was Dan.
Dan
sorry.
Mahuda.
Yeah. And what her mother did, because she could tell there was a painting behind the first painting.
Yeah.
Used like some sort of paint thinner to get rid of the original painting. Not the original painting, but the second painting that was painted over an original.
Yeah.
Because when people will like artists, easels were expensive and still are. So a lot of times artists would paint over their works. They would paint white over it and then paint over it again. So what she had done was she had removed the Frank Sinatra painting that he had painted and revealed another painting that somebody else had done before him.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't worth anything, but it was worth, if she wouldn't have removed the original artwork off the front. She would have had $25,000, $35,000 because he only painted for so many years in his downtime, when he wasn't doing, before he got involved with the mob.
Yeah.
Right. So
I learned about
Allegedly.
Maybe not so allegedly. Anyway, we'll move on.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I don't want a hit out put on us.
I think they'd be proud. It's like, we had Frankie in the pocket. What are you talking about? But no, I learned of the American Master Robert Rauschenberg through PBS. In fact, I did my junior year as part of. I had to get my fine art elective out of the way, and I was reminded of him by my teacher. And so, like, I just going back and actually one of the things I reviewed, they actually had in the Ole Miss library, they had episodes of, God, I can't even remember the name of the show now. Fuck. But I had it on the tip of my head and just it's gone. But one of the things about PBS is that if you, in much the same way of a public library, if you give it an opportunity to enrich you, you would be enriched.
Oh,
like
yeah.
there were things in there. It wasn't entertainment just to make you happy. It was also things that would enrich your life as far as that goes.
Which would make you happy.
The reason why I bring it up is Robert Rauschenberg, when he couldn't afford a canvas, he would just like make his bed and then paint his bed. Like he would paint his bed. In fact, that piece is hanging in the Chicago Museum of Art, which I can't think of the name of right now. But again, would not have known about him except for public broadcasting.
Right.
So now I want to talk about some more fine art stuff. But in the so we have a Masterpiece Theater.
Yeah.
We have mystery.
Mystery. Yeah.
And we have a number of the things that public broadcasting about it that has done the classics, both like British American classics, and brought them to life and also, in a way, also brought the stage and the stage play to people who would not go out and see stage plays, which I think is a tremendous art form that I don't think we're losing it, but we're definitely getting priced out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so things like Masterpiece Theater,
great performances.
There
was an episode of Great Performances that it's frustrating if you're expecting that you're going to watch a play. It's not frustrating if you kind of figure out what's going on early. So they were doing, quote unquote, air quotes, Alice in Wonderland. And they had like their guest stars, and the Great Performances would sometimes have, like, if it wasn't ballet or something, would have like TV stars or movie stars on there. I can't remember the name of the actress, but it was one of the more famous ones at the time. And she was playing Alice. Well, it was all behind the stage, behind the scenes. They were doing rehearsal and things kept fucking up, but it was partially still Alice in Wonderland, even though the actual show wasn't going on while all these problems were happening. It was thematically tied to it. It was just really good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But no, Agatha Christie mysteries.
Agatha Christie. That was the first time I saw Murder on the Orient Express.
I remember my mom being really into the Perot.
The Perot was a big deal on
I can't
there.
remember if it was a show or the movie.
It was mystery. Like it was part of mystery. Yeah.
There was a time, at least when I was growing up, where like it was just like, this is Perot.
Just
like,
Poirot, yeah.
It's not part of mystery.
We were talking about this in the car. Doctor Who aired on PBS.
Yeah.
So
Downton Abbey.
Right.
Downton Abbey,
first was on PBS.
Doctor Who,
because like they got all of the British show. Sherlock,
the
newer Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch was originally on PBS.
Doctor Who in the 70s and the 80s was a 30-minute episode. It was an hour long, and because it was on PBS, there were no commercials.
Yeah,
so they would have 5 to 10 minutes in between the next program. They would show animated shorts that were really weird. There's one called Kick Me. That's the only one I remember, but it was just really cool to see. Like, that's something you could only see on PBS at that time period.
They would do that a lot. I can't remember anything specific, but I do remember between the kids shows and all this. And that was the thing that really got me with PBS was like, I could watch this shit and there's no commercials. There's no commercials. I can watch the show all the way through.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that was a big appeal for me.
Right.
But yeah, like they got all those British shows. I want to say Faulty Towers was they
Faulty Towers, Monty Python too.
I never got to watch Monty Python on there, but I do remember Faulty Towers because I was watching it. I was like, oh, this this John Cleese guy is kind of funny.
Monty Python on PBS is the reason why they were able to do the Hollywood Bowl show in the 80s.
The BBC works so well for PBS because BBC is also a public broadcasting station.
Mhm.
So the timing for everything works out just the same way because you don't have commercial breaks broken in and everything. They just can kind of slot there.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something because we've talked about PBS and we've glanced at Mississippi's public broadcasting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a specific a Mississippi public broadcasting series that I don't know if it is still running, but it's one of the things I think this state has done very well as far as promoting the state, at least with inside the state, and that is Mississippi Roads.
Oh, yeah, I remember
Roads
that. I remember that.
is one of because. And I think this could happen with anybody. You think about the area around you being like not just your town, not just your city, but also your state.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of differences in Mississippi as far as like the coastal communities are different than the Delta communities, different than the North Mississippi communities.
Right.
And to have something that would feature very like it would take a town and like the fun stuff that happens there and the intricacies and the history of that town and really I think was an open eye and an enlightening piece of media where we could learn about not just where we're from, but if we are from the state of Mississippi, this is the entirety of the state of Mississippi. So I wanted to make sure we shout out Mississippi Roads there.
Also, I wanted to say this because I just thought about it. Before all the cable channels that were actual educational channels turned to actual reality bullshit.
Yeah.
History, Discovery, the Learning Channel. They took a lot of their ideas from PBS programming.
Yes.
And basically, bastardized it in their own, because there was a show on PBS that played on Saturday afternoons called This Old House.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a guy, and there was a couple of woodworking shows on there. There was a guy that had like an old gentleman's hat that messed with old school
there was
stuff.
There was a couple of like home building or like fix it,
right,
home
and
improvement
all
shows.
those fix it shows that later on like flip a house and all that. All of those ideas to PBS programming.
And y'all might have more, so I don't want to say like we're wrapping up or anything, but like the last thing that I have to talk about that's like adult shows is this always stood out to me because this was not an educational thing at all, but it was the Red Green Show.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Which is
Canadian.
It's just a variety show of this dude who wears red and green suspenders and he's all about fixing stuff with duct tape. I remember just watching that. I was like, wait, they can show this on PBS? This isn't educational. This is just funny. What?
I feel amiss. I feel like the spirits of
but he was important because even when they did like the yearly, because there was like a month where they did like fundraising.
Oh
it was just like everything.
They do
changed.
it twice a year now.
Yeah, or it might have been twice a year. I can't remember.
It's always been twice.
But
a year.
it was like all the programming was either going to be a special thing or was going to be them begging you for money.
Yeah.
And I hated those times because I was like, I want to watch all these shows that I'm supposed to watch.
Right.
But even though this was from Canada, like Red Green would do like things during the fundraising. Like there would be like special Red Green like live shows and stuff like that. So that one stood out because that was just like the first thing I was like, wait, it can be non-educational. What? They can do comedy in this? What?
I would feel remiss to the spirits of my grandmother and grandfather if I didn't bring up the Lawrence Welk show.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
The only time outside of Weird Al that I experienced polka was the Lawrence Welk show. So I just want to bring that up very briefly. Like PBS was a mixed green salad of everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Well,
it was one of those things that I'm like, just like I said, I'm really thankful for because like there were a lot of things like my love of learning really like this is like the PBS like really helped that. Like I love discovering new facts about things. I love telling people about things that I like, that I've learned about. And a lot of that like comes from PBS and like I think it's just like a really important thing that we have.
Definitely during a certain time period. Now I don't have cable television, so I mean,
well, I don't have television either.
But,
I don't have cable or anything.
I've got rabbit ears.
Yeah,
I've got rabbit ears at the house.
I don't even have rabbit ears anymore. I just don't watch regular TV anymore.
That's true.
But at that time, like it was a really big thing.
It was a lightning bolt of
it was kind of an oasis because, like I said, if I wanted to watch a kids thing, it was I had 4, maybe 5 channels if we got really lucky and could pick up Fox. So my options were very limited,
right?
And I'm glad that PBS was there, to kind of fill in the gaps. So I was watching some like educational stuff
for kids programming and for educational programming. I think the 90s as a whole decade was like probably some of the best television period, not just PBS, but some of the best television.
That's when they redid the law where they have to have like something, they have to do something educational in the show as well, and that's why like at the end of all the shows they would have like
they have that EI stamp for educational information.
They would have the it started with like the famous one is like G.I. Joe where like the last 2 minutes
that was the 80s one for sure. And what actually killed Saturday morning cartoons was when they cable and a bunch of other things. But there's one guy we haven't talked about. Okay. And it's a good way to end it. He was really excited to teach. He was erratic. He had a very specific tone. He was a physics professor. He talked about inertia. Yeah. He talked about
watch. Isn't that lovely? Point. If we add force times mass into the ignition factor, what will happen? Let's watch. Boom! Isn't that lovely? Dr. Julius Sumner Miller.
He's like, I'm gonna take these 12 paper cups. I'm gonna take this tree stump.
Now see here.
Now watch this. I'm gonna put this tree. You're not gonna believe it. I'm gonna put this tree stump on top of these cups. Look, it doesn't crush the cups at all. You know why? Inertia. It's spread evenly over the cups. Will not crush the cups. I'm going to wind up this duck. It's going to go across the table. And
its name is Finster.
Look at it go. Inertia. He is the inspiration for Doc Brown.
Yes.
110%.
Yeah.
I have filled this Leyden jar with electricity. Let's see what happens when I put my hand in it. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah. Some really, he was one of those who was like the educational thing for schools and stuff like that. I don't think he was on PBS when I was growing up.
I thought you were saying, I don't think he was on methamphetamine.
But I do remember like, and my memory could be all fucked up. I could have actually watched him on PBS, but I do remember like pieces of his show being shown in school.
That shit started in black and white and got to color. Like he was on there forever.
Yeah, most of the good ones, Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, all of those started in black and white.
That guy.
But like
I'm looking things up on YouTube, and the Dr. Julius Sumner Miller, the third video is electric shock prank with Julius Sumner Miller, and he's talking with 2 young boys. I don't want to watch this video, but I absolutely have to watch this video because he may have electrocuted children.
I'm sure he did. He's before Mr. Wizard.
So, we kind of chose this because, like all of us grew up with it,
and Ethan wasn't here,
and Ethan was in that generation where he's closer to like my kids, where like when you grew up, you probably had some sort of cable or satellite or anything like that, and there is like a cable PBS Kids channel
Right.
now.
But when you have the option of cartoons,
Yeah. But when
Cartoon Network,
but yeah, when
exists.
you have like a million other channels that gets lost.
Nickelodeon,
When you have 5 channels,
Yeah.
PBS looks a lot better as a kid.
right?
It's harder to to get to.
Good- good.
But there are like some things nowadays that they have like that have really like I think Caillou is a PBS thing.
I know it was back in the day.
You know, there are things. I mean, yeah, that little cunt. He's still around.
I tried to watch an episode of that.
Uh-huh.
Like, if you think
Caillou
Elmo
is a piece of
if
shit.
you
Right,
think
right.
Elmo is grating, at least he's a puppet.
Yeah, right.
Caillou's supposed to be a real boy.
Yeah.
And he's
See.
just like, I want to go to the zoo.
Yeah.
Or wait, it's a Canadian production. It's like, how about we go to the zoo,
Yeah,
mama?
Caillou's a little bitch. But there are things. There are things. Cut that one too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think you should. I think you should leave that shit in there.
No. We're not. No, we're cutting
I'm
it for the
saying
sound.
cutting it for the
Oh,
sound
yeah,
board.
yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna hear
For
that
sure.
many more times.
But yeah, Ethan is of that age, and we could be wrong. It could be he come back next week and it's like, motherfuckers, I watch PBS all the time. Let me tell you about all this shit. And
Yeah, I think he said something about In Between the Lines. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that is.
Between the Lions. I remember that. Like I never watched it, but I
Right.
do remember it being a thing as I got older.
For me personally, one of the reasons why I watched so much PBS was like there were times where like we didn't have cable,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you know, and I would be at home with maybe that day I didn't have any friends to hang out with,
Mm-hmm.
and it was TV time. And the thing about summer vacation is that television doesn't give a fuck about you if you're a kid in the 70s and 80s during summer vacation. And during
90s is the same thing.
well, in the 80s though,
Yeah.
especially the 70s and the 80s though, from 9 o'clock in the morning till 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon until Donahue showed up, soap operas.
Yeah.
Every network, because Fox didn't exist until 1986. And even then, not everybody got it until like you know, we got it in 87 when the first season of Star Trek Next Generation started. But anyway, my point is, when your options are St. Elsewhere or Sesame Street, I don't care if you're 10, you're watching Sesame Street.
Yep.
Because fuck St. Elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, and General's Hospital
By the time I got,
and Guiding Light.
by the time I was there,
Wait, St. Elsewhere was the late night one.
I meant the other one I just
Days
said.
of Our Lives.
No, there was another hospital one.
There was General
Hospital.
Hospital.
Yeah,
General
General Hospital. That's
Yeah.
the one. That's the one.
It was
I meant
only
to
about
say.
3 hours of
Yeah,
of-
I'm sorry.
of soap
I'm sorry.
operas by
Jay,
the
Jay
time.
reminded me. I forgot there were nighttime soap operas
Yeah.
too during the day. Dynasty, Dallas,
yeah.
Knots Landing. Let me get all
Saint-
this hate out of
St.
St.
Elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
Yeah.
Fuck all that nonsense. Anyway,
Yeah.
St. Elsewhere had the worst ending of all time.
Yeah.
Dallas had a pretty bad ending too.
It also meant that,
Dallas had 2 bad endings.
yeah.
St. Elsewhere's ending also meant that like a whole lot of shows were happening in some kid's head.
Yeah.
That's what Dallas is like. It was all a dream.
Oh yeah, they really liked that in the 80s.
It was all
lot.
a dream. Well, the show's getting canceled. We better just end it here.
Well, it's not that it was all a dream. It was
Wait,
that
are
the
we-
last season that you watched was a dream. Like
Right.
everything
Yeah.
that happened when the dude
Yeah.
died.
Right.
Yeah, and then it's like, hey, what's up? It's
Yeah,
like,
I didn't know that guy from Dallas. I knew him from
Step
Highway
by Step?
No, Highway. That too.
That's Michael Landon.
That's,
a different
Michael Landon's
person.
from Highway to Heaven.
Is that a different person?
That's a
than the
different
dude who was
person.
in-
It
Yes.
is.
that stuck out. That
Yep.
turned out to be alive in the end of
Yep.
Dallas.
Yeah.
Those are 2 different people.
Those are 2 different people.
Jesus
They just
Christ.
look
Did you
sort of
think
similar.
the episode on PBS would somehow unravel you to the point where, like, where Michael
Gun
Landon,
to my head, I would have said those were the
Michael
same
Landon
people.
and Patrick Duffy are 2 separate.
Oh yeah,
individuals.
Patrick Duffy's his name.
To me, they looked exactly the same
No.
when I watched it.
I can
can
walk
see
with
it.
you for like half a mile, but the rest of the road, no, I can't go down that road with you.
gun to my head, pull the trigger, and I would have told you that those were the same.
One
fucking
had
people.
2 shows, the other one only had 1.
Michael Landon died of cancer, and Patrick Duffy was the leg of the Sasquatch in South Park.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good way to tell
I think
them
Dallas
apart.
was the only thing Duffy ever did, wasn't it?
Step by Step.
Oh, yeah.
I literally just said it.
I do remember Step
there
by
were only
Step.
30 sitcoms in the 90s.
That was TGI Fridays.
That was
I knew
TGI
that shit.
Friday, baby.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
That
know
was
it.
There's
Another thing that we can talk about.
that was
too.
the
Oh,
regu-
yeah. I'm a sitcom dude. Like, my 2 dads, I'm with you.
That
like,
was
I know
the regular
all about,
part of TGIF, and the rest was all fucking crazy.
There was my 2 dads.
Well, I started when I watched
You
when it started to go off the rails.
That was Paul Reiser and Greg Evigan.
It was.
Like I vividly remember the episodes of Family Matters where Urkel is turning into Bruce Lee
There's
and teleporting.
Growing Pains also went off the rails.
Growing Pains was a little bit past my time, I believe.
Yeah, before your time. Yeah.
Okay, we're going really off the rails,
Yeah,
so I guess we need to
Public broadcasting.
public
Who's the
broadcasting.
boss?
Hopefully, if you're around
Stop
you're around-
saying shows that have great theme songs.
if you're around our age, hopefully this brought
Family
some
Ties.
nostalgia back to you. And if you're not, maybe this brought an interest. Is hey, let me check out some of these things. Or if you have children or something like that, sit them down and make them watch. What is the I get them mixed up because there was the movie, but then there was also a documentary about Fred Rogers, and I can't remember. They're both good.
Because the movie
But
with
Welcome to My Neighborhood's one of them.
Yeah. And
was
one of them's Won't You
was
Be
the only American actor that could play Fred Rogers. Yeah.
And that was a really good movie, but the documentary is
Better.
so fucking good, and I cannot remember the because they're similar. One of them's Won't You Be My Neighbor, and one of them's called Welcome to the Neighborhood.
Yeah.
Find them, watch the documentary. You'll cry, and there's nothing sad that happens in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, this is PBS is so formative to my childhood.
Yeah.
Almost more than any other thing.
I would almost agree with you for me too. To be honest with you.
There is so much about my childhood that and the way I am now that has to do with fucking the PBS shows.
I would have it and Nickelodeon, especially the afternoon Nickelodeon the animated block. Yeah, that was the those are the
and by
parts
by the time I got older, I was much older when those were formative to me. Nickelodeon was never really I have a nostalgia for it because I do remember it was always special when I got to watch Nickelodeon or anything like that. When I got to watch Real Monsters or any of those.
You know the shows I mentioned before your time on PBS.
Yeah,
there's a lot of those on Nickelodeon. Yeah. So when we do the Nickelodeon episode, which we've got to do that, there's going to be a lot of talk about it.
But yeah, hopefully this took you down for a good nostalgia trip. But we're going to be rolling into the station. We're going to be leaving the neighborhood, getting off the street.
We're leaving the land of make believe.
We're at the end of the rainbow.
We're on the trolley.
Yeah.
Pinwheel spinning. I'm sorry that we're not talking about Nickelodeon yet.
No. I don't even know what the fuck that is.
You don't.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah. Signing off. We want to thank McNarb Gaming for by the time this comes out, go back in time and go to their July 4th thing that they have, because they got all kinds of sales and stuff. They got hot dogs until they run out.
They always have sales.
They literally put that on the flyer
in between us recording. They always do.
They got some extra percentage stuff off. You can just go back in time and
buy some terrain for 30% off right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you to McNarb for providing us with this this place to record.
There's a new D&D book out, Dragon Delves.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool.
They restocked the Shadow Dark stuff.
Oh yeah, they got a lot of those. New dice. There's some new dice hanging up.
Yeah. We have something scheduled for next week, but off the top of my head, I cannot remember, and I cannot see the schedule from where I'm sitting. So it's going to be a surprise to you and me.
Too heavy. I can't move it.
I thought the subject was too heavy.
It could be. The cables are holding it down.
We're going to talk about Holocaust movies.
Oh God.
That's real fucking heavy. Yeah.
Point of
We're gonna talk about punishments for witches.
oh man, we're talking about Dune. Look at that.
No.
We're not talking about Dune again. God damn it.
I swear I wrote that down.
You wrote something down.
Not based on a true story.
Yes,
I
I
don't
think that's
know.
it.
I don't even remember what that conversation
I
was.
think that was a. Oh yeah, okay. So we're going to talk about things that when you watch a movie or a TV show and they always tell you like based on a true story,
and it's
We're gonna-
not really.
and it's not really. We're going to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk about some. There's a lot of things that say based on a true story that
And
come
it's
from.
usually based on Ed Gein.
Yeah, most. Yeah,
There's
throw-
gonna be a few of those.
Throw a dart. We could have done an entire episode on just shit that was based on
We
Ed
could
Gein.
call this next episode the Ed Gein-a-thon.
And we might talk mostly about that, but there's also some other things we're going to talk about. So join us for that next week. So signing off for Travelers on the Omnibus. Jesus Christ, it's late. My name
Jesus Christ, thank you for showing up, sir. Appreciate
my
it.
name is Brady Davis.
Have you heard of the All-American Oh, I'm sorry. I've been listening to Book of Mormon. Jody Kite.
I'm Ethan Skinnell and also James McCarthy.
Jesus.
Also James McCarthy.
Yeah.
That was man. There was so much.
So,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you guys want to talk, but the term heavy naturals is like the dumbest thing I've heard about breasts lately.
Heavy naturals.
Heavy naturals. No, we can't. The thing is running. I can't cut that.
You can cut they're
No. I'm just saying it's a weird thing to say. Like, and people are calling like.
why would you bring that up now?
Because we were talking about PBS and there was no way to really interject that.
I give that 0 out of 5 Zens.
Hit the fucking button, Jesus Christ.